Good evening. Chairman Abedisian calling to order the Strategic Planning Committee's special meeting Tuesday, April 18th, 2023. Call the meeting to order. This is the last in 8 sessions that we had of having the different departments come in and explain to everyone how they have come along over the last few years, and it's been very informative. It is on video, and I suggest anybody who hasn't seen them, for the new commissioners, when the video comes out, it'd be great. You should take a look at them because a lot of good information. So, go ahead. Yes, sir. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, but we are planning to do a summary video because, as you know, we've got hours and hours. So we're planning to do a summary video of this, all of these presentations together, to keep it under about 10 hours. And then, that's funny. No, but we're going to try and do a real concise video for our use.
Is this a Christmas present?
It's a Christmas present.
We're going to edit out Scott. And anyway.
Yes, please.
Okay, number 2, public comments related to agenda items. Anyone here? Public comments? Anyone online? Going once, going twice, 3 times, okay. Approval, we have a quorum, right?
Yes.
Okay. Approval of the minutes.
Move adoption. Second.
I get a second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Okay. All right, now on to the good stuff. Report, reference 2003 Barrington Wells Management Study Update. We have informational technology and human resources.
Hi, Kelly Shane, Chief Administrative Officer here at the MDC, and I'm just introducing Bob Schwarm, our Director of Information Services. We've saved the best for last with our Information Service Department and HR Department, and we're excited to share with you. We're jam-packed with information, so I'm going to turn it right over to Bob Schwarm.
Thank you.
Hi, good evening, Commissioners. So what we're going to present today is an introduction to our IT department managers and leads who will be presenting high-level summaries of the applicable study recommendations in their areas. Functional overviews will cover what has been done to date, what we are doing now, and what we're going to do in the future. Themes you will be presented are relative to how maturing processes, increasing automation, and upskilling of staff have supported improvements in customer satisfaction, risk management, resilience, and overall organizational productivity. It's important to note that some of the information being shared this evening is intentionally vague due to the cybersecurity risk implications of sharing details in this arena. So questions about details of any areas of concern that might cause risk concerns may be deferred to executive session. So as we walk through this presentation, we'll be touching on each of the management study recommendation areas, including the reorganization, business process improvements, measuring performance, succession planning, the workforce plan, and optimizing IT investments, including that of SAP. We'll actually be flowing a little different than cybersecurity first. We'll be starting with the infrastructure team, flowing into cybersecurity, talking about applications, and then the GIS systems, and then a wrap-up. The 3-legged stool analogy gives us a way to represent the core information services provided, the applications and integration which enable the business to function through automation. In addition to the core services that provide functionality, we also need to manage cybersecurity risks to maintain confidentiality, integrity, and availability of data the business needs. This presentation will cover greater context to each of these areas. The management study recommendation and reorganization departments, I'm trying not to read bullet by bullet for you, but essentially in 2015 I was hired. 2016 and 2016 we really beefed up our cybersecurity program by onboarding a business systems security administrator. Josh Tryon to my right. We also hired an IT manager, Bill Pallas to my right, to really bring the infrastructure team into a regimented control process and be able to improve the capabilities and stabilize the environment, especially around the network and data center operations, as we'll illustrate with a couple images later. In 2016, the GIS department was also moved back under IT, and this allowed us to really maintain our systems in a pretty consistent way across our different data systems. In 2017, we really started to develop our NIST cybersecurity framework in alignment to our cybersecurity program, where we started to actually measure our performance against the industry and our peers. To reassert, we have 17 people in the IT department in GIS, starting with Bill Pallas, who's the IT manager for infrastructure. Bill has been with us since 2016, and he manages 3 staff and 5 full-time contractors. We've done a lot to outsource some of the dependencies so that we could move a lot of shift our game up significantly. Donna Paramasivam, to my left, joined the team just 2017, as our IT project manager, and Josh Tryon, again, our business systems security administrator. To my left is Anne Marie and Jim Weiser, Anne Marie and Jim Weiser, who are principal GIS analysts, who lead the GIS department. Back in 2015, the IT department was a very, very different place. GIS reported to engineering, and there was no role dedicated to cybersecurity, governance, risk, or compliance. The print and mailing functions were reporting to the IT department at the time, and they had reduced from 24 people in 2003, when the management study was done, to just 10 in 2015. The dependency on contracted staff really became significant, and the inability to effectively govern them had become a significant risk to the organization. And enter Scott hiring me. So since 2015, the department has changed considerably. As I mentioned, Bill Pallas and Josh Tryon were onboarded for focus on infrastructure and cybersecurity. The mailing and print functions were moved out to finance, and GIS was moved under me. In addition to the talented staff here when I arrived, retirements and open positions have since afforded us the ability to seek new talent and seed new talent in IT. In addition to those I mentioned, we have added Charlotte Saab for reporting analyst, Donna, I mentioned already, Chetan Bhatt, who is a finance analyst, working with the business on finance and CRB, Tim Murphy, who's a systems engineer, and Omer Khan to really help the team bring up our game with governance, risk, and compliance management. This is an organizational trend that you saw a couple weeks ago. Kelly showed it on a more grand scale, and I wanted to zoom in on it a little bit to share with you the journey and reduction of force when it comes to the IT department in general. So as you can see, we've trended down over the years, and this is obviously a trend that as we increase automation, as we increase the code that we support, as we increase the volume of devices and hardware and software that are out there and try to manage the risk associated with cybersecurity, that we're nearing that cliff where we don't really have any more blood to drain from the stone. The IT GIS budget between 2010 and 2023 has maintained a pretty level or even keel status. So the average over that 13-year period is 3.97% of the overall MDC budget, MDC operating budget, with peaks in 2016 of 5.2 when we rebuilt the data center and had to catch up on significant volume of licensing and back charges, and to a low in 2014 of 3.08%. Management study recommendations related to business process improvements, you know, Bill will talk a lot about the IT infrastructure improvements. I'm not going to touch on that so much. But the cybersecurity incident response plan that was developed was a real, you know, significant milestone in our ability to, you know, protect the district and respond to incidents accordingly. The criticality of having a plan was reinforced by the EPA's America's Water Infrastructure Act that was enacted in legislation in October of 2018 that forced all of our emergency response plans to include and encompass cybersecurity risks. These are our data center before and after pictures, and these tell a significant story, and I'm going to try and fast forward through it a little bit. The pictures on the left are basically the old data center when I arrived. We had about $3 million worth of assets that had not been turned up at that point for 2.5 years because they had no ability to cool or add power to the data center. They couldn't even life cycle manage the transition between storage because they couldn't light up new storage to be able to move it onto. So we were forced to, and the board supported an initiative to develop and build our own data center upstairs. We built out a custom state-of-the-art data center that's highly efficient thanks to Tom Tyler and his team. It runs very efficiently. We also seeded a data center out in Springfield, the Massachusetts State Data Center, as our disaster recovery data center. In fact, the picture on the bottom in Springfield is adjacent to the road that the state of Connecticut themselves use as their disaster recovery site. In addition to the management study recommendations on business process improvements, we've also added measuring performance as a significant goal of ours. So today, we have implemented ITSM and NIST cybersecurity framework measuring points for federal standards across NIST drive us towards specific measurable things related to risk and how we manage that, how we prioritize that. Josh manages and captures all the metrics associated with NIST and ensures that we are prioritizing our risk management and risk mitigation projects accordingly. Also included in our measurement process is ITIL. ITIL is the IT Infrastructure Library. It's a standard that's across the industry, and it helps us really measure and manage how we're performing within our IT groups. Bill is going to talk extensively about this, so I'm not going to steal any more of his thunder. IT project and portfolio management was non-existent when I got here. The teams had decided over time on a couple of specific tools to help manage the projects and portfolios within IT. The first is a project management tool and tracking tool called Trello. Trello was used during the BT project and post-go-live hypercare period to better track stabilization and enhancement efforts while providing transparency between work streams. Today, Trello continues to be utilized for BET workstream project tracking and collaboration. And in November of 2020, the IT infrastructure team started using a tool called Jira to track IT infrastructure projects, manage activities, and to provide dashboard reporting on the portfolio. Today, we have 37 active projects in IT infrastructure being managed in Jira alone. Handing off to Bill.
Okay, is this good for the vertically challenged? Okay, can everybody hear me? Okay. Good afternoon. Bill Pallas, manager of the Information Services Infrastructure team. We'll start out by introducing our team. You can see here that in the picture it shows me with 4 fellas, but in the highlight it shows that I've got 3 staff. For that reason, Josh Tryon has been working as more of a hybrid mode since he's been on board here. Josh has supported both the cyber discipline and infrastructure roles. As staffing support strategy unveils, we're going to see Josh's role become more focused specifically on cyber, and eventually he will be moving away from working in infrastructure support. Chris Tavares, next up, is referred to as the Whiz Kid. He started here as a kid in the intern program in 2012. Chris was eventually hired on in 2013. He's our desktop architect and all-around go-to guy. Chris's main focus is to make sure that the tools and applications that we roll out to the field are working correctly and aligned to the technology business requirements. Tim Murphy. Tim is our system guru. He was brought on in 2019 and hired full-time in 2020, right in line with the SAP Go Live project. And Tim is responsible for everything server. He manages all of the MDC's physical and virtual server infrastructure, all operating systems, virtual and host-based, and additionally, Tim is the one who ensures all of the MDC data is both secure and backed up. And finally, and not lastly, is Jim Massey. Jim started his career here at the MDC in 1989. Jim is our primary engineer for telephony and telecommunications. He provides escalated support for the help desk team, and he's the all-around sweeper for the IT department. He keeps an eye out to make sure that nobody gets shots on goal and keeps us all safe. The next slide. Oh, there we go. I'm going to be parked here for a little while. There's a lot of data in that slide, but I'm going to try to drive a point home, and there is a point to this. One of the things that my team will hear me say all the time, if anybody spends any time with me, you're going to hear me say, measure once, cut 1,000 times. And I get a lot of strange looks whenever I say that, mostly the kind of look that suggests I'm not that smart. But it's an attention grabber, and it gets people to stop and think about what they're doing. So now let's talk about ITIL. You'll see that ITIL is repeated throughout this slide deck quite a bit. And bear with me for a moment. I'm going to read the definition of ITIL as it's defined in Wiki. ITIL is the Information Technology Infrastructure Library. It is a set of detailed practices for IT activities such as IT service management, IT asset management, ITAM, that focus on aligning IT services with the needs of the business. We're halfway through this one. ITIL describes processes, procedures, tasks, checklists, which are neither organization-specific nor technology-specific, but can be applied by an organization towards strategy, delivering value, maintaining a minimum level of competency. That's dry stuff. So what gets to the point quicker? Telling somebody to go to ITIL or tell them to measure once, cut 1,000 times? And again, what does that mean? So IT supports thousands of complex IT assets with just 3 full-time employees. If we approached every item as a unique challenge and measured each one of them twice before cutting, we would soon have a data center that looked like the one we just saw 4 slides ago. IT has to implement by ITIL standards. We have to utilize the tools provided by ITSM and ITAM functions. But the only way to get there was to provide our team the necessary time to think. If we spend our days putting out fires, we'll never get to the root cause. We'll never be afforded the ability to provide real solutions for the business. That's why, in 2018, we made the decision to outsource the role of help desk. Prior to this point, the IT department just was not staged for success. The staff wasn't allowed the opportunity to complete on the design and implementation of any complex initiatives. Our partner vendor engagements were at times largely unsuccessful. In 2013, and Bob had made mention of this, the MDC made a significant investment in virtual computing platform that went unutilized for several years, simply because the existing infrastructure could not support the platform requirements. The staff lacked the vision, foresight, and planning capabilities due to the obstacles that they faced. But all this has changed. We have mostly the same staff today that we had several years ago, and they've been hugely successful. Why? They've been provided the time required to think and plan without constant interruption. They've been challenged to up their game, improve their skills, and tackle the difficult problems that plague the MDC. So now we come back to the slide, and this comes to the point. The help desk, since being brought on board in 2018, they've answered thousands of calls. They handle the front line every day. They take the daily pressures off the MDC staff and take all of that heat, and they are making a difference. The trend line tells a story here. We started tracking our help desk tickets with SolarWinds in 2017. A year later, we introduced the help desk team. In the next few years, we saw the ticket volume climb quite significantly. But in 2021, you can see it starts to decline as expected. The volume drops. Everyone's still busy, but they're busy developing and adopting standard processes. They're taking complex efforts and reducing them to repeatable tasks. They're performing root cause analysis and eliminating faults. The MDC full-time staff has raised their game, and so has the help desk. Wayne, David, Dylan, we have David and Dylan here tonight. While they're not working on trouble calls, they're planning and implementing changes, performing system maintenance, and assisting with project work. These are some of the attaboys that we've picked up since bringing these guys on board. And our help desk staff is a difference that matters. Our goal at the onset was to hire based on potential, aptitude, motivation of each candidate. We weren't looking for experienced technicians. The opportunity to gain valuable experience is what we provide them. I'm pretty certain most everyone in the room has been benefited from the assistance of Wayne, Dylan, or David. Let me see here. And again, just some of the thank yous along the way.
And I just want to interject, this was 4 out of many. We could have selected a number. There have been a lot of praise sent their way, and I want to express my personal appreciation for the 2 gentlemen sitting here today. I think a lot of the customer satisfaction improvements that we've identified can be tied back to this help desk function and the talent that we've been bringing in to manage for that. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Okay, so now on to the tools. So SolarWinds Help Desk. This is our primary ITIL ITSM tool. So over the years, we've expanded our use of the SolarWinds service platforms. Through SolarWinds, we track all of our problems. We're able to streamline our ticket automation processes, so we clue right into email, and we can pick up keywords and route those to categories and tech queues. SolarWinds, you can see here, tickets been generated, and automatically we can see that this is based upon a new hire. Along with the tool comes pretty powerful reporting features. It has both canned predefined tools reports, and this right here you can see is a customized report that our BET team uses to track on tickets. The next step of our journey with our ITIL, ITSM, and ITAM tools is the SolarWinds Service Desk. This is a cloud-based platform with both ITSM and ITAM functionality. This slide right here is a generic slide that we picked up off the SolarWinds internet site, but you can see it provides a detailed inventory of PC assets deployed to the field. The benefit of having this asset information and having it all bundled into a single platform is it provides the configuration database management system. So any one of these assets tied into our ITAM and ITSM system can be tracked upon any troubles or changes that we have with that device over the course of its life cycle. And introducing Tim Murphy. Tim is our systems engineer.
Hi, I've been here for about 4 years now at the MDC. The majority of my efforts here have been in house cleaning by means of process standardizations, workforce management, and just overall improving, general improvements to our systems. A couple examples are our Windows patching maintenances and SSL certificate on our servers. We now have standardized processes with examples, good documentation, which have now been passed on to our help desk to perform, alleviating the duties from Chris and I. We've also have streamlined maintenance tasks by use of developed scripting, which allows us to do maintenance tasks with a couple clicks instead of logging on to multiple servers and performing the task manually. On the virtual landscape, we've enabled features and templates that allow us to add more resources to servers as needed without having to power them down, eliminating any disruption to the business during business hours. Again, in our data center, we've cleaned up a lot of old legacy equipment. We've consolidated 3 network cabinets down to 1 in both of our data centers, thus saving electricity on equipment we weren't using and improving the cooling overall in the data centers. And then here we have a couple of a bunch of different projects we've worked on, are working on, and future considerations. Along with the SolarWinds help desk, we also have SolarWinds application monitoring. So before, we were only able to see if server was on or off. Now, along with that, we can monitor applications, services that they provide, make sure that they are running properly at all times. We've worked with the SCADA team, deployed out a whole brand new fleet of servers, upgraded all the VMs on them to current operating systems. In 2020, with Windows Server 2008, that went end of life and is no longer supported. October of this year, the same thing happens to Windows 2012. So overall, we've upgraded or decommissioned over 135 virtual servers to stay on supported operating systems to make sure we can receive security patches and stay up to date. On the hardware side, we are going to be replacing 34 end-of-life servers this year. We'll be doing it with only 12 servers as a replacement. The new generation servers have more resources and are just overall better since they're at about 10 years newer. We're also planning on migrating our on-premise Exchange and SharePoint services to Microsoft 365 later this year, hopefully. This will be one of MDC's first big ventures into the cloud. By migrating these services, we'll always be on the latest and most secured versions of Exchange and SharePoint. All the maintenance and security patching is done automatically by Microsoft, and this alleviates these duties from us. It also provides licensing for all the newest versions of Microsoft Office for as long as we stay on the platform. And another big thing we're planning is global DNS deployment through cloud load balancers. It's a lot of words to basically say if we lose internet here, all our applications that we provide to external sources will still be able to work because it will be able to be routed through our data center in Springfield, and we can still continue on with business in the event of a shutdown here. With that, I'm going to turn things over to my desktop counterpart, Chris Tavares.
Hello, my name is Chris Tavares, and I've been supporting the MDC for the last 11 years. As Bill mentioned previously, my main focus has been on our user endpoint landscape, but sometimes I assist with servers and cybersecurity. 2019 presented a great opportunity for the MDC. Our core applications and operating systems are nearing the end of life and support. The 19 unique hardware models deployed across the district were becoming overly complex to support and maintain as components began to fail, and the overall performance of endpoints continued to decline, with the average age of workstations being 6 years or older. To combat this, we switched our position as far as IT asset lifecycle management. Whereas previously we purchased all our hardware and maintained it on our own, we switched over to a PC as a service model. In this model, all hardware is leased through your vendor. It arrives asset tagged, imaged. They come on site, they pick up your old hardware, and when your lease is over, they collect your old one. For us, it frees up a lot of cycles, especially when you do refreshes in the hundreds. Imaging machine can take an hour or two. If you're doing 100, you lose a lot of time. In addition to these services, we're now able to reduce the unique number of hardware models from 19 to 8. This reduces the complexity of environment, making it easier not just to support, but also to maintain secure. When you don't have to deploy firmware patches for all these different models, you don't have to support different operating systems, it's a lot easier to automate than it is what we were existing with prior. Since the completion of the initial laptop refresh, we've seen an overall performance over 50% and are now on a 4-year upgrade cycle, whereas previously there was no preset. So all our laptops will actually begin to be upgraded next year, as it'll be year 4. Next slide, please. The other leg of this transition has been virtual desktop technology. For those unfamiliar with virtual desktops or VDI, you can think of it as a computer in the cloud. Instead of traditional user endpoint being a desktop at their desk, their computer is in our data center, and then we deploy what we like to call a thin client. What it does is it looks like a computer, but all it does is call back home and feeds them their screen. These thin clients come in many forms. It could be a desktop, it could be a laptop, it could be a web browser or a tablet or even a cell phone. This flexibility became critical during COVID-19 as we were suddenly forced to allow remote work capabilities. Luckily, we were already using this environment for water pollution control. Within a night, we were able to assign almost 100 users access, let them onboard without having to purchase any additional hardware and deal with the constraints of the supply chain that were happening at the time. Another plus of this is that everything is very secure. Since it's held in the data center, we're able to back up everyone's data daily, even at their desk, restore it, lock it down, and require things like multi-factor authentication and ransomware protection. It's also scalable on the fly. We can expand it, contrast it at will, or depends on the business need. If we suddenly need to onboard 30 interns, at a snap of a finger, we have 30 devices for the interns. We don't have to purchase any hardware. Everything's set to go. And last but not least, and my favorite part, is we were able to achieve all of this while saving 50% on our hardware refresh, all while leveraging existing investments in the data center. With that, I'd like to introduce Bill Pallas.
Mr. Chairman, question?
Yes, go right ahead.
Just a question on your laptops. Every 4 years, you kind of recycle them. What do you do with the old ones? You clean them in?
Yeah, so because they're released.
All right, Chris, we're trying to get into a mic.
So because they are leased, Dell comes on site, they're picked up by a third party, they're data cleansed. We receive a confirmation with a list of each asset and that it was cleaned, and then they either resell the hardware or redistribute it, and then we receive our new laptops.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Chris.
Anybody else?
Okay, we're going to go through just a couple more infrastructure slides here. So this shows our unified communications migration coming up this year, 2023. The MDC implemented voice over IP over 10 years ago. As the current infrastructure works, all of our telephone calls internally, desk to desk, office to office, ride over our IP network. But any calls going to the public switch telephone network are going to run on our very legacy platform over old PRI circuits, very outdated and expensive equipment. Several months ago, we commenced with our project to migrate to WebEx Cloud Calling, and we're now entering into our pilot phase. What this is going to do is basically take all of the MDC calls and manage and route them through the internet. All of the legacy telephone circuits will be dismantled. What does this mean for the MDC? It provides greater flexibility, improved collaboration tools, a significant cost savings, and improved resiliency. This slide, we actually run this through the board back in 2019. This was the stabilization effort that we were working on in order to provide full redundancy into both data centers and to each one of the critical WAN sites. This project, we completed our efforts to standardize on all IP and domain naming schemes. Physical redundancy was completed for all critical applications. And the benefit of this infrastructure here is we've actually had several critical outages with our carriers and had zero impact to the customer during each one of them. So this is our redundancy and resiliency. Cloud ready. This is the new buzzword that we're constantly running around with now. Everything that we do comes down to, is it cloud ready? As we're looking at the migration path of the MDC and its critical applications, you can see that everything will be going to the cloud. Our calls are going to the cloud, SAP will go to the cloud, emails going to the cloud. So our core focus today is ensuring that we are prepared for whichever way we may deploy. We don't have all the answers as to where SAP will land, how it will be managed, but our goal in infrastructure is to make sure that regardless of that, we're ready to handle that. What does this mean for us? Multiple pipes to the internet, low latency, high bandwidth performance, dynamic failover capabilities, and elastic capacities into the cloud. This is our last infrastructure slide. This is the multi-cloud strategy. So not going through each one of the bullets, but you can see here that we have a pretty busy schedule of taking applications to the cloud today. Secure backups, 365, cloud security, already, if not moved to the cloud, in the process of moving to the cloud. That finishes my presentation.
All right, Bill's going to pass it on to Josh Tryon now for cybersecurity.
Hi, everyone. Josh Tryon. I'm the security administrator here. I'm going to go over some key cybersecurity program developments since I arrived in 2016 in no particular order. In 2018, we added an advanced email filter that has additional email and file sharing security functions. One of those is a secure file sharing platform so that employees don't have to use public file sharing methods that we can't control the security of, like Dropbox. And we later added a data loss prevention module. The DLP module catches emails that may have been sent accidentally with sensitive data like employee or payment information, and requires that those emails be retrieved on the outside in a secure manner only. We implemented multi-factor authentication several years ago. That protects the various methods that employees and contractors use for remotely logging in, like Outlook Web Access, VPN, and VDI. When I arrived in 2016, the IT and SCADA teams operated mostly in their own spaces, and this needed to change to give both of our teams an understanding of how to protect the critical MDC SCADA assets. We now have a great collaborative relationship with both teams with weekly meetings that make sure that projects are on track and that both teams have what they need for resources from each other. In early 2022, we added cybersecurity awareness training. Employees' cyber education is one of the most important things we can do to keep employees from clicking on links or responding to malicious emails when they do happen to make it through. We've had great feedback so far and have above a 70% completion rate on modules we've distributed. And we recently completed our 2023 penetration test. Our goal is to complete those every 18 months. About 2 years ago, we added an intrusion detection system. We get many feeds from our industry partners, the state, and our own vendors, but this IDS gives us constant monitoring of the MDC network, both the IT and SCADA networks, and gives us tracking tools and remediation information for both. In the last year, we partnered with a network operations center that gives us 24/7 by 365 monitoring. This keeps the infrastructure team from having to be on call or to monitor emails and other alerts off hours. There's escalation procedures that the NOC has, which would notify us if a security event requires immediate response, and they also have the ability to quarantine devices themselves if they have to. Cyber Yankee is a yearly cyber exercise with the National Guard and some other military branches that we've participated in for 6 of the 9 years it's been running. This has given us a lot of useful relationships with other utilities, provides us with simulation training of an actual cyber event. And this has given us awareness into how the process of responding to an event would work in the real world and gives us invaluable cyber training. In the picture there, you can see our own Bob Schwarm, Chris Tavares, and Tim Murphy at last year's event. Looking forward to this year and in 2024, we're continuing to improve the IT and SCADA network security. This starts with firewall upgrades in the SCADA environment, which gives us improved security, real-time monitoring, threat prevention, and zero-day threat detection. Some of the dynamic update functions of the firewalls reduce administration as well and make sure that the features of the firewall are always up to date. We've already started the move to a new VPN, which introduces some important security improvements like tighter multi-factor authentication controls and gives us a greater ability to control exactly which employee or contractor can get to what devices on the network. And finally, we've been looking to improve security, network, and server logging for several years so we don't have to look in multiple places to track events. Some of our existing platforms lack in logging capabilities, and a security information and event management system, a SIEM, would collect all these logs in one location and gives the infrastructure and security teams better tracking of them. Next, I will hand it off to Donna on the applications team.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone. This is Dana Paramasivam here. I'm a project manager on the IT. Today, I'm going to introduce our team members on the applications team, as well as cover the functions they provide to the district on a day-to-day basis. First up, we have Levina Mebane. She couldn't make it here, and she's not in the picture as well. She is our system administrator responsible for SAP system maintenance and also access management. She has been with the district for more than 15 years now. She started with infrastructure and then moved on to the SAP function. Next up is Elias Sanabria. He supports our open text functions. He is with the district for more than 14 years now. When he started with the district, he was responsible for the enterprise content management on Oracle. And with the advancement in technology, we found OpenText was the best fit for interacting with SAP. So that was implemented, and from then on, he is responsible for managing that function. He creates and maintains automated workflows and makes sure that OpenText can be employed in the business operations to make it more efficient. Next up is Charlotte Saab. She is our reporting lead, has been with the district for about 7 years now. She was responsible for data migration and data cleansing and migrating reports during the business transformation program. And after we went live, she is currently managing the SAP reports and analytics portfolio. Next up is Chetan Bhatt. He joined us 3 years ago. He comes with an experience on the SAP Finance and CRB modules, and currently he's our point of contact for our finance and customer service business work streams, and he's our liaison between our AMS partner, Utegration, who is also providing support on the functional and technical areas. Next up is Omar Khan. He joined us very recently. He's with us for 6 months. He was brought in to provide extended capacity in terms of security administration, also to support projects that will be coming in future. So all of us have many different core functions, but our most important critical function is to keep the lights on 24/7, irrespective of the business hours. Our systems run 24/7, so we do all that is necessary to keep the systems on all the time. Before I get into the details of each function, I really wanted to take a moment and reflect on MDC's journey with SAP as a software product. I wanted to do it from 2 objectives. Last time when our COO presented to the board, she touched on how we need to care and feed our system on a daily basis. I wanted to expand on the thought and walk you through why it is necessary to do so. SAP, we all know, is a product for 40 years in the industry. And MDC's journey with SAP as a software has been more than 23 years now. SAP has released 5 major product lines so far. The first 2 are really very early ones, starting in 1970s, and they all ran on mainframe. The more prominent product line was released somewhere in the early 1990s and was most prominent for 12 years. And then MDC started its SAP implementation in the early 2000s. And at the time, it adopted the latest product, SAP product, which was the R3 version 4.5, which was the nearest one available at that time. And ever since then, SAP had been part of supporting the critical business processes at MDC. And as time went by, SAP was evolving more products, and then the next version came up, which was popularly known as Enterprise Central Application, ECC. And then that evolved further in 2005 as a business suite application, which provided more functions as a packaged product for multiple applications supporting finance, HR, logistics, and all other enterprise asset management functions. And when that product was rolled out, MDC adopted and upgraded to that product, and we lived on the product for quite some time. And fast forward to 2016, the latest version of the 2005 version of ECC was released. And the previous version we implemented was functional, but then we were not able to take advantage of the most critical functions that were offered in the latest versions. So it became apparent that we had to move on to the latest version available in that product line. And that's when the business transformation project started. And we went to the latest version on ECC and went live in 2020. And as we are excited about using the new product and gaining more familiarity and utilizing it to our best possible abilities, SAP has already released their new generation of the next product line, which is popularly called as S/4HANA in the market. I'm showing this here to make a point that our journey with SAP has not stopped, and it will not stop, and we have to keep continuing to evolve in order to keep up with the product evolution, as well as to maintain the regulatory compliance in supporting critical business applications like HR and payroll. Every year, we need to be compliant to the yearly patches that they release to keep up with the tax rules that support payroll. Now that we run payroll and HR in-house, it is very mandatory to keep up to speed with that and not stop with that. And we also have to continuously evolve. And at some point in future, sooner than later, we also have to prepare ourselves to get onto the new platform product line called S/4HANA. Which comes with most advanced technologies, including artificial intelligence, and offers more analytics capabilities that everyone is interested in. So with that, I just wanted to move on and cover the critical functions that our team does on a daily basis. This is our system administration function, where we keep our systems in good health. It all deals with doing the routine works behind the scenes. Most of the time, our work is not visible, but we do bring about visible results in terms of keeping our systems resilient and being available for business operations to perform without outages. And as part of BT, as I mentioned before, we had to move on from an older version of the product to the new version. And as part of that, we also had to move to a compatible operating system from Windows to SUSE. And we also implemented processes that will enable us to digitally connect with our third-party vendors and interfaces. Some of the examples would be sending payroll files to Webster Bank and the benefits information to Anthem, and then billing files to Kubra. All of this happened manually before we did the business transformation project. But after that, these are all automated. And to give you an idea of the technology footprint that we added after the business transformation project, we currently have about 70 batch jobs that run every day. And then we have about 28 third-party interfaces that we deal with the other benefit vendors and vendor partners. So all of these manual processes were moved on to be an automated process, and that's where we need to spend most of our time caring for them to make sure they are running without any breakages. So with that, I'm going to move on to the production support function. This is our core function where we provide support to our business partners. We work very hard to give back more value with what MDC invested on the SAP product as well as on the support team. Work just flows nonstop into the production support queue, and we just get it done. And again, it is 24/7. It doesn't matter when something breaks, we just get on and get it fixed on time. We have a ticketing system to manage our demands, and the business work stream submit tickets to us. That can be system fixes or product enhancements or automation of work processes. So far, after we went live, we have serviced more than 4,500 tickets with this team that I just introduced, and also we have an extended support team. We have application management services provided by our partner, Utegration, who also support us on the technical and functional sides. With that, I'm going to get into reporting. This is our most exciting function because in a world where data is king, there is no stoppage for the reporting needs that is coming from our business, either for analysis purposes or for decision-making purposes. As part of the business transformation project, we had more than 100 reports that were migrated and re-implemented on the new system. And top of that, we added more than 180 reports, which brings us to a total of 280 custom reports that help our business partners do the data analysis to keep up with the data integrity, as well as that leads us back to identifying business process improvements where the data is not captured properly and sent downstreams. With that, I'm going to hand it over to Elias for covering the OpenText functionalities.
My name is Elias Sanabria.
Before you start, any questions at all? Oh, okay.
All right. Hello, my name is Elias Sanabria. I've been with the district for a little over 14 years, as Donna mentioned. I manage OpenText, which is our MDC's document repository. I think a lot of you guys are familiar with that. There's a section that's called Board of Commissioners where I designed with John Myrtle, Victoria, and Julie, with security on Josh. Yep.
Next slide.
Sorry about that. But OpenText is much bigger than what you guys personally see on the Board of Commissioners side. In fact, right now, there's a much larger area which covers procurement, which has our vendor information. We have our assets that are connection with the SAP, our customer service information, documentation, and invoices as well. It manages it's a large application, so there's about 17 servers. 3 environments. You have dev and QA and production. I mostly work with Chris Tavares on the Exchange because it's integrated with our email system. I also work with him on the Microsoft Office suite because it matches with all of those applications inside of it. Tim helps me manage those 17 servers, and Josh helps along with security. So kind of like behind the scenes, we first started off with Oracle in the transition from Oracle to OpenText. The path was really, SAP is our main data source for assets, so OpenText worked seamlessly with SAP. So that was the direction that we were headed to. And I think that with the OpenText platform, we were able to do that. We were able to get procurement with the vendor information. We're talking about invoices with vendors, materials management, purchase orders, and a lot of vendor contracts that are also in that system. Like I said before, we have customer service, and each address that we have and that we bill to our customers, we have a folder structure that matches that. So it matches well with our assets inside of SAP. So basically look at OpenText as a supporting system for SAP. Our current projects currently today is the LCRR project. So what we did is we took documents from Oracle, we input it into OpenText. However, it's not really set yet with SAP. And we call that extended ECM for SAP. And what that does is the LCRR project will take the old documentation, they will review that, extract data, upload it to SAP, and then take that document and match it to the asset inside of SAP. So it doesn't matter if you're working with inside of SAP or OpenText, you can access the same documentation, and this helps with GIS. Some of our record plans are connected to GIS, and I think that gives us the ability for the guys out in the field, quick access to whatever they need for a particular address or if a pipe breaks or something like that. We are also looking at an invoice workflow that we've created with procurement, finance, and the engineering department. This cuts out the manual efforts that we're actually doing of handing paper from office to office. It's more digital. This also enables the executive staff to manage the workflow as they see fit. If they want to make changes 2-3 years from now, we just do it in the system and it conforms along the way, which I think creates a lot of efficiencies. We are also looking at upgrading OpenText. We're at 16.2, looking to upgrade to 21.4, which is what SAP has approved currently. And then our future is realistically continuing to enhance how we use OpenText. How do we give the documentations that we can find much easier? And I think that, while we continue to increase our documentation and clean them, we can increase SAP and increase the usage of GIS. Thank you. I'll give it back to Donna.
So in wrapping up, our future perspectives are to derive the maximum value from our current investments on SAP, and we have to keep aligned to MDC strategic business objectives. This is where we work closely with our CAO and COO to bring their vision into reality. And we also have to keep our pace with SAP's product evolution. As I mentioned before, SAP is growing every day, and there is no other chance than us to grow with it and evolve to provide a better user experience as well as make our processes very efficient. And with everybody talking about digital transformation, we also have to embrace that path, but in a way that it is minimally disruptive to our current business processes and current systems. On the screen, I wanted to show you how SAP has evolved. And our journey right now is right in between the 2004 and 2011. When SAP started with mainframe screens, it has gone into the desktop version and then the web version, and then now we have Fiori-based advanced screens that provide better user experience. And now that all the external users are obsessed with touch phone and touchscreen devices, they want technology on their hands. So we want to be in a place where we are able to better serve them while we are on site with MDC's business objectives. So that's it. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Anne-Marie.
Thank you, Donna. We have been spatially enabling the business with GIS for over 30 years. Obviously, it was manual mapping until 1989 when we started building our GIS database by converting our digital photogrammetry and digitizing record plans. We had key milestones, 3 GIS to SAP integrations, a lot of photogrammetry, and database conversions and upgrades. And we continue to take advantage of Esri, our GIS software vendor, to continually to collect, analyze, and share our data with the latest technology. So to kind of recap, we went from manually scribing maps to digitizing paper maps and records into the GIS and continuously building our enterprise GIS with hundreds of layers and thousands of attributes. The enterprise GIS consists of 9 servers, including a dev environment and a production environment. The Geo database is stored in a SQL Server database. We have a robust quality control process to make sure we have the best data integrity we can provide. The new data is entered into the Geo database version by a mapping technician. The edits are then reviewed by a principal GIS analyst to make sure all pertinent information is included. The edits are then reconciled and posted to a master version, and then the master version is then reviewed and reconciled to a default version which the general user would see. The enterprise GIS is the heart of 3 major areas. In the middle, the master GIS, that's the core for the Esri suite of software for the GIS staff, engineers, and natural resources. The internal web mapping viewer reads directly from the default version, so users have current, reliable data. Engineers use the master data for their hydraulic and stormwater models. Our master GIS is used for base map of record plans. The data is shared with drafters, external customers, member towns, and MDC consultants. And of course, master data is used for various map requests from the engineering department. The second area is ArcGIS Online, and one of its primary roles is the collection and management of asset inspection related data that's not part of our master GIS. It uses the master GIS as a reference in data in ArcGIS Online so that utility maintainer can identify which pipe he is about to clean. The third area is SAP integration, which I'll talk a lot about further. Our GIS web mapping viewer is available for all employees connected to the MDC network and can be accessed through the link on the intranet. We currently have 177 viewers. I'll show a quick demo. Can I request control? So here, if you're on the intranet, and then,
So, sorry,
Oh.
we got it on the WebEx. Julie's gonna.
Yeah, I gotta get out of
jump
the,
to the.
PowerPoint on this or it won't.
Want to close the participant pane, Julie?
Yeah, we're just making a full screen.
Yep, there you go. Thank you.
Thank you. So if you start in the intranet and you go to the GIS on the left-hand side, you can click on our MDC web mapping. It will send you to a login screen. Oh, because I had already been logged in, sorry. But it will ask you to click on the Metropolitan District login. You don't need to log in because it uses single sign-on, but you'll get then to this home screen. Again, if you click on the MDC web mapping, it will bring you to our general web mapping viewer. Up in the left, you can type in an address, 555 Main Street, Hartford, Connecticut. You'll get the results in the list. You can click into it. It will zoom to the area. As you see, when you zoom in, more features turn on. Over on the right, you have a layer list. And this is just some of our layers that we think are important for our users. So we can zoom in a little bit more. I can scroll down and I can turn on our 2015 imagery. I can see this gate valve in this crosswalk. If I left click to identify, I can see this gate valve was installed in 1896. It's a 16-inch gate valve with a 4-inch bypass in the pit. Keep scrolling and we get various information about it. The open direction, right? It's normally open, 33 turns to open. Over here on the left, the solid blue is a hydrant. I can identify that. I can see that it was installed January 23rd of 2015, and it was part of a work order for the hydrant 3139 Wells Street. I can turn off the layers, zoom out. I can turn on water record plans. I can identify any area. It highlights the extents of that record plan. I say open plan. And now the water record plan in open text opens up. It's a quick way for the user to get to that record plan instead of going into open text and typing in street and finding it that way. You can do the same with a sewer record plan. Turn on sewer record plans, identify, it outlines the extents, I open the plan. Again, a quick way to get to the record plan in open text. I zoom out a little bit, I can turn on the flow direction for the sanitary and the stormwater. I turn on relined sewer mains. It highlights it in yellow. I can identify this sewer main. I can see that it was lined in October 26th of 2021 and part of the contract 2019B-20. So again, if you pan around, zoom out, layers turn off. I can pan, just to try to show you something fun, down to the Hartford Water Pollution Control Facility. I'll turn off the water and sewer layers, but I will turn on our 2002-2003 imagery and the 2019 state imagery. And we can look at the changes. So if top right, there's a tools, goes swipe tools. And you can see that on the left-hand side, I'm going to slowly swipe, and that will be the new tunnel shaft. So on the right is 2002, on the left is 2019. I can keep swiping, you can see the new secondary tanks, and there's some small buildings, I think the ash silo and heat recovery and the UV building and odor control and effluent pump station, and I think the last was primary clarifiers here. So this was just a little bit, was just a sample of some of our GIS data. Obviously, we have lots of data out there, and if we don't have it on the viewer, users can ask us. I'll stop sharing, and if I can go back to the presentation. Thank you.
Clicker not working now?
Clicker takes a second.
Oh, okay.
In the meantime, can you advance to the next slide? Oh, although you got these progressive.
Oh,
things.
yeah. So there we go. And our first GIS integration was with the rollout of SAP in 2000. We were working with our GIS software vendor, Esri, on creating the functional locations and equipment that was to be created in SAP. Esri brought in a subcontractor, Cybertech, to create the mapping interface using Esri's Map Objects programming to be able to display, create, and change equipment, work orders, and notifications. In 2008, we converted our GIS to the geodatabase, so we upgraded the GIS to SAP interface, again with the help of Cybertech, using the latest Esri program, ArcObjects. We added the functionality to select an address point, which was represented by an orange star on a building, to open the SAP Customer Interaction Center for a particular customer selected. With the BT project, it was decided to change the GIS integration and use SAP's GeoEnablement framework to build a map interface. In 2020, we went live. The map runs in SAP using Transaction GEF Explorer. You can start from a map and go into an SAP technical object, or you can be in the technical object and go see the map in the embedded tab. The GIS department created new functional locations by checking streets and coming up with new street ranges. The GIS department then assigned all new functional locations to the GIS data that was then used to reload all the horizontal equipment into the new SAP system. GEF also allows the users to turn on a work order or notification business layer to display them on the map, and that had been a request by the command center for a few years. Another new awaited feature was the capability to select multiple equipment at one time to then create notifications or work orders in mass, which saved staff a lot of time. Here is what GEF looks like. You can zoom to an area and turn on the business layers, the assets, and the work management, which are the work orders and notifications. You can identify by left-clicking an object to get the information. This is an example of a work order for a cut and cap. Then you can view the details of the object, the work order. With GEF, we also implemented Sync for GEF. This is a custom SAP programming to sync the changes that are sent from GIS to SAP. In this example, GIS creates a new sewer main. A program keeps track of all the changes in GIS and then sends them to SAP Sync. Then every night, SAP processes any stored sync jobs. Now SAP has the new sewer main equipment with the GIS attribute characteristics. You can display the equipment and show the class overview. This is now an automated process instead of us having to extract, translate, and load the equipment as previously done. It also updates SAP characteristics whenever the GIS changes attributes, a feature we did not have previously. I'll now turn over it to Jim Weiser.
So Jim is going to skip over a bunch of the slides. In the interest of time, we're just going to probably run right into the demo.
All right, so thank you, Anne Marie. So where I'm just one slide I'm going to show is how the GIS is supporting the district and all of its various departments. On the right-hand side, we have our GIS and all of our data layers, our maps and apps that we use to support all the different departments and functions within each of those departments. The green boxes are functions that are supported by our master GIS that Anne Marie spoke about a few minutes ago, and the blue boxes are ones that are related to our asset inspection and asset management related features that take place out in the field. And what GIS has done with ArcGIS Online is it allowed us to take our traditional hard copy, stovepiped, paper-based workflows and turn those into a digital work management system that takes place out in the field that allows us to share that data in real time with a lot of people in the district. This is a paper form that they use for sewer main cleaning, and we turn that into used field maps and then a main cleaning form that's done in an app called Survey 123. We did the same thing with catch basin cleaning and sediment monitoring. We had a paper-based form that we then turned into a digital form there in Survey 123, and we're able to repurpose that form several different times to accomplish different tasks. And these are other functions that we've done, essentially the same thing, taken a paper-based form and turned it into a digital form. And then we can share that data using dashboards and charting, and I'll show you all of that in a couple minutes, and tracking of sewer main cleaning and how it's progressing. All right, so let me share the screen here. Oh, yeah. Master control. I did that.
I think you have it.
Do I need to make Anne Marie presenter again?
Yeah, yes.
where's the? Oh, there. All right. Okay, so what I'm going to show you with is, this is a, okay, this is a hard copy cut sheet that was used for years for tracking the paving program. And what the GIS department did was assist the engineer at the time that was managing this and turned it, or used ArcGIS Online to start managing this whole program. I'm just going to show you one survey that we use in this process, because GIS apps are used to manage the entire life cycle of a paving cut, from when it's first, when the hole is first put in the ground until that cut is certified complete. So we created that, we took that paper form, and this runs on an iPad out in the field, so we may see it a slight lag here because we are inside. Here we go. And what we've done is we've taken advantage of all kinds of the technology that's included with our apps that Esri provides. We do background processing to do things like reverse geocoding to automatically capture the address of a point of where a repair is going in. So you can see here, over here on the left, we have our map, and that blue icon is where we are currently located. It uses that point to automatically populate in the street address through reverse geocoding. It automatically selects our town for us, all in an effort to make our data have less errors and be more accurate, and it allows our field people to have to do less typing out in the field. And this ultimately makes their reporting go quicker, and it allows us to share cleaner, more accurate data. We do other things like, here we would enter in the work order number. It's a 10-digit number, and I have some code written into the background here that says, hey, make sure it's 10 digits. If it's not, when they go to try to submit the data, they'll be presented with an error saying, hey, check your work order number, make sure it's right. You'll see these little red asterisks next to various fields here. Those just mean it's a required field, so that the data cannot be submitted unless all the relevant fields are selected. And again, this ensures that we're getting high-quality data. We default the cut date to today's date. That's when they're out in the field, so they don't have to worry about entering in the date. And then we have some more processing that goes on in the background so that the repair supervisor doesn't have to know, am I on a state highway or not? We take this blue icon here and intersect it with a polygon layer that we have of state roads, and all it does essentially is say, hey, is this point fall within this polygon? And if it does, this would become yes. And if it's not, it's no. But what's nice here is that we still give the end user the flexibility to change it, because that polygon is not perfect. You know, if you're near an intersection, it could not be in that state road. So if it was, they could click yes, and if it wasn't, they can change that. Then down here, they mark where's the cut going to be made in. You can see as they check an item, we have the required fields available that come back from, this section of this hard copy cut sheet here. And you can only enter in numbers. I could type letters on my keyboard all day long. I don't have to worry about someone typing in 6IN or 6 with the little, quotation sign for inches. We can just tap and say, okay, that's going to be 6 inches. Then in the road cut area, we have a field calculator appearance. So if it's, if it's just a 6 by 6, most of it can say, okay, I'm just going to type in 36. But if it's, 3 1/4 by 9 1/2, that's a little harder to do in your head. At least it is for me. And you can have a calculator that'll automatically calculate that value. Now, what's great about this here is, again, I keep talking about stuff going on in the background. The data that's required by the paving program for road cut areas is in yards. But that's a lot harder for those guys to work in. They're measuring in feet and inches. But for this measurement here, we have processing that goes on in the background that will take that value of 30.875, and it will convert it to yards so that the paving program gets what they need, and then the end user, when they're filling this out, doesn't have to worry about trying to make that conversion either on on the paper or opening up a calculator app. And then the same thing happens again for the cut area. And then we have them take a picture of the area and do a sketch. And ultimately, as soon as that is submitted with this little check mark here, it's now available to the project manager, who can then process that cut into its individual components, and it gets into mark out, and then where the contractor can start working with it. We have a web app that we share out with our paving cut contractors that allows them to see what their pending work is, what they've completed, and then they can also do scheduling of their work. Say, okay, we know we're going to be in this neighborhood, we've got 6 cuts there, we're going to schedule those. And then they can, as soon as they're done, they then have the ability to mark that work complete. And what the advantage of this for us is that it compresses sort of that life cycle of the paving cut in terms of when the district is aware of it. Prior to having this type of tool, it could be days or weeks from when that cut goes in the ground to when the district knows that it's either been marked out, the contractor has completed it. But now, the contractor can say, okay, I'm going to start this week. They get out there this week, and by Friday, they say, okay, I'm done, it's marked as done, and now we know that it's done. We don't, as soon as they mark it done, that's it. We don't have to wait for a spreadsheet to get mailed to us, 3 weeks later saying, hey, we've completed this cut. And if somebody calls and complains about the cut or has a question about it, we can say, hey, we know it's being scheduled. We know it's being worked on. We know that it's been completed, so we can provide better customer service to our customers. Then we can go one step further. All right, well, I'm going to have to really under the gun now. So here we have a dashboard. This is ways that we make this data available to the rest of the district. This is what our project manager has available to him to help manage the project. Over on the left-hand side, this is for the lifetime of this program. When we actually started doing this back in 2015, but in 2017, we redid the whole workflow because our technology finally caught up with our requirements. So this is going back to sometime in 2016. This is the number of cuts that have been completed. And right now, this is what we have pending. But we can come in very quickly, say, I want to select the coastline contractor, and I can now see what they've completed and what they have pending. I could come in and filter by town. Wrap it up. Okay. And then wanted to show you the pictures. My cut isn't coming up. But what we can do is we then have these guys, when they take these pictures, this is what they capture, and it provides a ton of value to everybody in the district, because we've taken this hard copy cut sheet that I showed you before, and we essentially created a digital cut sheet. It's got all the same information on it, and it provides a ton of context to the people in the district. We also have them taking pictures of the markout, so when the contractor goes out there, if it's been a while, they can see what those original cuts were. And let me see if I can find.
All right, we're gonna have to wrap it up. Jim could probably stay here talking to you all night. But I do want to thank you all for your time. I know that Jamie is anxiously and patiently waiting back there for HR's presentation to get going, and we do have a tremendous amount of information that we could share with the district if given more time, or the board. Wait for Julie to get the last slide up.
You got one more slide?
Just a wrap up.
Okay.
That's it. Here, let me see. All right, so just to wrap everything up, IT strives to align with the overall organizational goals. The benefits of digital transformation and innovation in improving efficiency, reducing costs, and managing risk are what we tried to convey during this presentation. Showing the effect of a robust cybersecurity framework has on data privacy and protection by providing foundation for complying with regulatory and industry standards. And we continue to focus on designing solutions that are scalable and adaptable to changing business needs. We continuously plan enhancements to SAP functionality and deploying new technology in concert with business process improvements. I want to thank everybody for your patience as well, and for listening to a lot of probably techno jargon. And if there are any questions, open to answering any. And I'd also like to thank everybody who's talked, and presented today from the team and those who showed up, who are critical to supporting the IT operation for the district.
Just one question. There's a tremendous amount of technology involved here, which runs on a tremendous amount of power. My big concern is, given all this stuff that you do, which is a lot of data and a lot of analysis and really computer-driven work, what happens if you have power loss? Do we have a redundancy that will allow you to continue to do all of this work, and for how long?
So our business continuity plans provide for a lot of power redundancy and resilience within the facilities of the district itself. So we have backup generators as part of the emergency response plan that are activated when power situations occur for extended periods. Beyond that, we have staged the data center technology so that it's cloud resilient, so that it can be transitioned to cloud, so that people who, even if we had 14 sites at the district that were without power, God forbid, people could work remote and be able to access their data center services directly out of Springfield off the internet. So even in the event where resilience and business continuity are demanded, we have those capacities and capabilities to extend out into your personal realm in order to survive those types of events.
But I'm sorry, but it doesn't come without a cost, right? So the expense, the earlier slides were talking about, I think Bob mentioned in 2014, we had a low of 3.08% of what we spend on IT. And most of that was $2 million worth of servers that were up in boxes that we didn't employ. And I think Bob mentioned that and Bill mentioned that. So you've got to invest. You've got to invest. The one thing about a server, we talk about replacing servers. A server doesn't go bad. A server is learned how to be hacked. So a server that's 10 years old is not that it's going to fall apart, just that they've already figured out how to hack it. So you've got to improve your technology, every 3 to 5 years or sooner, so that you don't get hacked. And the cloud-based. Every time we talk about cloud-based, you're talking about licensing. You're talking about money. So, but it's an essential. One thing you've heard tonight, which you heard in all the presentations, is prior to 2000 or in 2003, none of these departments talked to each other. They were working in silos. They were building their infrastructure in silos. But now you have an IT department, finance department, engineering department, an operational department, all working together to be more efficient. And kudos to the team. They've done a great job. Bob's done a great job. There's so many things we could talk about that they have done that I'd be embarrassed to tell you. But they've done a great job, amazing job.
Any other commissioners have any questions? Yes, Commissioner.
I don't know if this is on. Yes. So I wanted to pick up on Commissioner Torres' remark about redundancy. And so as I'm listening to this particular presentation, and particularly the woman closest to me, whose name I forgot, sorry.
Donna.
Donna, okay. Donna, thank you. This whole notion of how we've tried to reduce the number of personnel to a degree, and a certain amount of retraining that is allowable by certain union restrictions, so that we don't have too much redundancy, which is fine. Is it the case, as it seemed to me, clarify if I'm just oversimplifying, which I don't mean to do, but is it the case that, particularly in this department, in the IT world, it seems like we have X number of people performing X number of functions, manipulating data, and is it the case that it seems that employee A, staff A, whatever you want to call it, refer to, staff A receives work from staff 1, and then staff A passes it on to staff B to do another function. It sounds like it's the case that our training program, our purpose in the staff obligation is to not only know their particular function, but the previous function and the successive function. Is that the case that I'm overstating it or oversimplifying it?
So in certain areas, we can give you direct examples of how we've managed through those progressions of career. So in the succession planning, when it came to Chris Tavares and moving out of the help desk function and into the network administrator function, or network analyst function. When doing that, Chris worked with Bill to backfill the help desk and to retrain those individuals who are coming in behind him. He is now being cross-trained by Tim Murphy as well as Josh Tryon in cybersecurity and systems administration, so that he can then succeed into those roles or into one of those roles at some point in the future. We are striving to ensure that there is some form of succession planning when it comes to most roles. It is a thin staff, so some roles we are just basically in peer mode with. Within the SAP world, outside of technical, we really have silos of knowledge. So between the finance consultant liaison, Chetan, and Omer and Charlotte, doing reporting, they don't serve similar functions at all. In fact, the skill sets are very dynamically opposed to each other. So in those areas, we don't really have a lot of succession opportunities. We use a lot of vendor consultants for expanded or elastic capacity and for sustaining those types of ebbs and flows of employment. But those are painful moments when we get them.
And you do have, Commissioner, if I may, you do have one decision to go to the cloud is you either go to the cloud and pay a lot of money for licensing, or you expand your staff. So back in 2015, we were actually talking and strategizing about what is the future. Are you going to the cloud? If you're going to go to the cloud, you need to build a bigger team because there's a lot more to do there. So the decision to go to the cloud is what Bob's been working on for really since 2015 in preparation for that. But yeah, there is an important, just like we talked about, I think Bob mentioned, most of the staff is existing. They needed leadership, right? They needed leadership. We didn't upgrade SAP from 2005 to 2020, and we spent $750,000 a year with a consultant to keep SAP from crashing. So, but it is, we're trying to do more with less in every department.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Thank you, Bob.
Pleasure.
Commissioner Bush.
Hey, my name is Commissioner Bush. More of a comment and an observation, I guess, than a question. I just wanted to say that I'm really fascinated by the competent work that was done with the GIS system. I've seen it in practice, watched the guys out in the field, and it's just an incredible system. It functions at extremely high level, providing an enormous amount of data right to the people who need it at the time they need it remotely on their remote devices, their iPads. So I've seen it in action. It's an impressive piece of work, and I just wanted to say compliments to the team on that. So, thank you.
Anybody else?
We can take like 3 minutes between switch over, stretch our legs.
Sure.
Our attention span when we reach this age.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Good luck tonight. Bob's got a big test.
Yeah.
Statistics, Bob.
Statistics and probability for my MBA.
All right, we're starting. We are now back in session.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Jamie Harlow. I'm the Director of HR. Thank you for having us tonight. I'm going to click over just to the agenda. I'm going to introduce our staff in a couple moments. What we're going to touch on tonight are some of the highlights of what HR does, definitely not all-inclusive, and then we'll touch on some of the management study recommendations. We're going to pinch hit for Rita Kelly, talk a little bit about affirmative action and how that intersects with HR, along with succession planning, like most of the departments have done. So first, I would like to introduce my fantastic staff. 4 of the 5 are here today. So our newest member, Nadia Anderson, is an HR generalist. She's been with us for about 9 months. She's not here tonight, unfortunately. She had a conflict. But what I would like to do is introduce the rest of the staff that has come tonight. First, Olga Cordova. She is our HR manager. She's been with the district for over 15 years. Her primary responsibilities, while we are all generalists in HR, most of us have done every aspect of HR. Olga does focus primarily on the recruitment side, and she is our system lead for the BT team. Next to her is Katie Ann Cohen, also HR generalist. She is our benefit guru and all things wellness. A lot of system stuff as well, and she does all of our onboarding and orientations as well. Next to her is Felicia Betsy, also been with the district for 15 years. I'm sorry, Katie Ann's been with the district for about 6 years. Felicia is, works hand in hand with Katie Ann, supporting a lot of the onboarding, hiring, and pretty much anything that needs to be done in HR. Data, if we need information, Felicia often is the one that finds it. So could not do what we do without the wonderful staff that we have. So I'm going to do some of the talking, and then I'm going to really turn it over to Olga, and we're going to kind of go back and forth a little bit. Okay, so HR has the important responsibility of really working with the district's most important asset, the people. We are responsible for managing the processes needed to hire, train, compensate, manage, retain employees. We are involved with the employment process in every single aspect, from the onset, which is the hiring and onboarding, all the way to separation, retirement, and even beyond. A lot of what we do involves retirees. So you might think, oh, someone's retiring, they're done with the district. No, we are field calls and every day from retirees. It's probably some of the heaviest call volume we get is from our retirees. But again, we manage everything in between. We do have the pleasure of working with employees at all levels of the district. We work with managers in managing their staff. We work with employees when it comes to personal matters. So we really do get to see the best and worst in the work environment. Beyond just working with the people of the district and managing processes, another very important aspect that we do is we manage the external partners that we could not do our jobs without. A lot of what we do, we have to rely on, some of these are some of the current partners that we work with. I'm sure I've missed some, but you'll see some familiar names. Milliman, they manage our pension. Workers' Comp Trust, they've been here, they've presented, handle our workers' comp claims. Anthem is our medical provider. Without these vendors and partners, we could not do what we need to do in providing the services to our employees. But this is a big job to make sure that we are managing these vendors, communicating with the vendors to make sure that we are appropriately supporting employees. Compliance is also another area that people may not think about when they think about HR. But the district is not alone. Like every other employer, are held to federal and state laws and regulations. Those could include discrimination, workplace discrimination, wage and hour laws, employee benefit laws, amongst a whole host of other things. Failure to adhere to those compliance standards can result in lawsuits, financial losses to the district, and one of the most important things is damage to reputation. So again, compliance, something that largely is unseen, but a very, very important aspect of what HR does. Any questions at this point? Okay. So I'm going to touch on a little bit first some of the recommendations from the management study. While the role of HR has not really changed over the course of the years, I would say that HR has evolved at the district. I definitely think it has evolved. And everything we're trying to do is we're trying to work more efficiently and we're trying to work smarter. In 2015, from what I understand, HR began reporting to the CEO. Prior to that, and I think it was spoken to a little bit in some of the other presentations, everyone had their hands in HR. That's a really dangerous thing when you're looking at HR because it just breeds inconsistency and inequity. Not something that you want in HR. So having HR report directly to the CEO and centralize it was a very, very important aspect to make sure that the district was doing everything it could to protect itself, to make sure that our practices, policies are consistent. In doing that, it also gave the opportunity to really focus on the core business. What are we doing? You know, like other departments, everyone is doing doing more with less. We are half the staff that we once were. Probably before 2003, it was probably more than 10 people in HR. Now we are 5 people. So you have to kind of pick and choose, okay, what can we really focus on? So decisions have been made over the course of the years to outsource certain HR functions to third-party administrators to really increase efficiencies. Does not mean that HR is not involved in those processes. It just means we are not having our hands in every aspect of it and in the weeds on those topics, but we very much are actively engaged in those processes. We will talk a little bit more about those later. Again, having a centralized HR, we also need to make sure we have the infrastructure to provide the support that employees, managers, and leadership needs from HR to be able to do their jobs. Some of the simple things that were done to make sure that HR is accessible is we have a main HR phone number and a main HR email. So if someone doesn't know who to contact, there is always someone they can reach out to, and those phone calls are answered, messages returned, and emails are checked several times a day. We also do a lot of in-person meetings with individual employees, with managers. Onboarding is a weekly thing generally, especially at this point with the amount of hiring we're doing. If we do have people who leave the district, we do exit interviews. And then we also will do some training and educational sessions as needed. Okay. Another important part of centralizing HR is making sure that our policies, practices, procedures, handbooks are consistent and that they are communicated. You know, it doesn't do any good if you have a policy and no one knows you have a policy. So very important that we have consistent policies, that we communicate them, and that they are accessible to employees. Part of this process is making sure that we are creating an environment that is fair and consistent. And that really does start with policies and procedures. I know sometimes HR has been referred to as the policy police. You know, it's not what I like to hear, but, you know, I've been in HR for over 20 years, and unfortunately, you know, that's sometimes what it is, but it's because it's so important to be consistent. The employee handbook and policies are updated and kept current on a regular basis. We do get employees signed acknowledgement of the employee handbook when that is issued for the first time, and then when we've had significant updates, we've done that as well. Part of updating the policies and procedures is making sure HR knows what's going on in the HR landscape and the business landscape. And that's a really important thing, is to stay current on legislation. It's an ever-changing landscape. There's always new legislation making it harder to run a business. A lot of that is, I noted a couple of the most recent things that have happened here. So recently, Connecticut obviously legalized marijuana. That has an impact on how we run our operations. We do random drug and alcohol testing. We do pre-employment testing. All of those things impact the MDC. Paid FMLA, again, and then the random drug and alcohol testing, both on the DOT and the non-DOT side. So all of these have a potential, whenever there are legislative changes, to have an impact on the way the district operates. One of the biggest things that we have seen over the years is COVID. That changed so much of what we did. We were able to respond quickly, but while much of the country and the world were at home, working from home, the district was not. The district was largely on-site for the vast majority of the pandemic. There was a very short period of time where we were very lucky to be able to negotiate with our unions to have our office staff work from home. It was less than 8 weeks. And then also have our field staff do alternating shifts to minimize the impact of being together. During that time, we were continually monitoring CDC guidance. EH&S was fabulous in making sure everyone here had the proper PPE and resources available so that we could call our employees in and know that they were as reasonably safe as possible. Another thing that kind of goes into the policies procedures is that the district did implement a whistleblower hotline in 2019, and training has been conducted on that as well. So that's just another resource that has been provided to employees. Any questions? So as, again, most of the departments have said, everyone is doing more with less right now. Everyone is trying to improve efficiencies, improve processes, knowing that we don't have more staff to do it. A lot of HR's involvement in business process improvement has been through union negotiations, working with the unions, working with management to help the district simplify some of the processes and procedures that we have in place that just made it harder to do our job. So again, that was a super important aspect of simplification of some of these union contracts. There's been a lot of successes over the years. Pension contributions have changed, so that decreased the district's long-term liability. Other things were kind of done outside the system and were just very administratively burdensome, were not done as best as they could be done, and we've been able to negotiate with unions to get those done. Much of the 2022 negotiations with the unions was focused on administrative efficiencies, streamlining, standardizing. We have 3 different union contracts. Everyone is different. There's complexities in all of that, which ultimately make it really hard when we are trying to have an HR system with rules where it's just completely different for everyone involved. So again, that was a big push to continue to try to simplify some of those work rules in the 2022 negotiations. And again, we made a lot of progress. There's still things that need to be done, but again, a lot of progress has been done, and we've made huge strides at this point in terms of even just aligning the union groups and the non-union groups, so it's administratively a little easier, which means we can do more with less when we're not having to fight against ourselves to get these things in the system. We are obviously always looking at process improvement and HR internal controls to make sure we are being as smart as we can in doing what we're doing. Data integrity is huge for HR. Almost everything we do involves data. We are the keeper of the records. We are maintaining data on employees and on the business electronically and in paper, depending on what it is. So the integrity of the data that we just spent how much money on updating this database, it's super important that the data that we're putting into that database is accurate. So HR has a lot of internal controls where we're auditing the data that's being entered into the system. We're cleansing it where necessary. You know, people make mistakes, things happen, things can be fixed. But again, we have things in place to try to minimize that. Because ultimately what goes into the system is what's coming out of the system. What we are maintaining in the system is ultimately what we are reporting on. We are reporting with finance. So if, you know, they have an audit, we're pulling information from that. If we have compliance reports that we need to run, again, generally that's going to come from our HRIS system. So super important that we are maintaining the integrity of the data and that we are maintaining the records in the manner in which we are legally required to. We are very protective of the data, so anytime we are reporting, it is not identifiable. And again, we're not just going to freely give information to people. There needs to be a legitimate business reason why we would be giving that information. We also try to minimize or limit multiple entries into different systems. So some of what we've done is online web enrollments for open enrollment. So instead of us having to enter it into our HR system and then enter it on Anthem's site, we can utilize the system to have interfaces that are communicating that information once we enter it into the HRIS system or SAP, and that is our database of record. Olga's going to actually talk soon about some of the system efficiencies, but again, some of the efficiencies have been the SAP upgrade, applicant tracking, and Percipio. But again, I'll let Olga talk about that a little bit. The goal, ultimately, is what we're doing is planning for the future. We need the right people in the right job, because again, we're doing more with less. So we need to make sure we are planning appropriately for the future so that people, so that we can get all the work done that needs to be done. So again, we've talked about this before, so I won't spend a ton of time on this, but at this point in time, every bargaining unit now has multitasking job descriptions. We have significantly reduced the number of overall job descriptions that we have here at the district, and are putting ourselves in a position where we can do more with less, because it's not the situation that it once was that, oh, well, I can't do that job, that's that person's job. It's very important that we were able to move a little more fluidly through the job tasks that we have at any given point, and these multitasking job descriptions have enabled us to do that. Any questions for me before I turn it over to Olga? Oh, sorry, actually I have one more slide. This is just kind of a quick summary of what the district looked like in 2003 versus today. So again, the multitasking job descriptions, in 2003 we had over 300 job titles for 700 employees. Today we have about 150 for 438 employees. So a good decrease, yes, in staffing, but also in the job descriptions. We are heavily unionized, as you know, so about 75% of our workforce is union, and that's kind of the breakdown there in terms of the 3 bargaining units we have. The remaining 25% is the exempt and excluded group. Again, adding to the complexities is we have employees at 17 plus locations. Yes, we do have primary locations in Hartford and, you know, West Hartford, but we do have a large number of locations. We have a lot of property. We have people who are in the field and may never go to a direct site. So again, that makes the jobs of the managers even harder, because they're not only managing the people, but they're trying to manage them in all these various locations. So again, just a summary of budgeted employee headcounts, which you've seen that slide before, and a quick snapshot of where we were in 2003 versus 2022. I'm gonna, yes?
Commissioner?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Jamie, just a kind of a forecast question for you. My experience has been that there has been progress for X number of years in terms of union negotiations and so forth. And so my question has to do with, as we move forward, let's say what you see perhaps happening in the next 5 years, maybe 10 years, as far as employee considerations as expressed through the unions? Are they becoming more difficult as we go forward, or have they somewhat evened out, leveled out to less confrontational attitudes?
I think the answer might change based on the day you ask me. Right now, I would say they've leveled out. I think we have very positive relationships with the unions. I know I meet with them on a very regular basis, generally once a month. I'm meeting with each of the unions. Supervisory unions a little less, but you know, I think we have open lines of communication where they feel they can come to us and air their grievances. Sometimes we can resolve those, sometimes we can't, but very minimal where we have to go to formal processes, and I would definitely say very respectful interactions for the most part with the union and management and employees.
Good, thank you. Thank you.
I know I was going to say, I know you're going to, I knew that.
You know, a lot of positive, there's probably our biggest challenge, and we talk to the unions about this all the time. And this is happening right now, the transition, especially in operations where you've got the largest significant workforce, labor workforce that works out in the street, is a generational gap. You know, years ago, we would have operations wanting to work overtime all the time, you know, no matter what. And the new generation, Generation Z, or maybe not even Generation Z, Generation Y, they're not so much, there's a life balance issue. And so we're challenged because we want to make sure that our staff, not contractors, are working in the streets in the middle of the night repairing a water main. And so that's going to be the challenge, being able to deal with this generational gap and the transition of, the details are complicated, but working those issues out. But there's some more, as Jamie mentioned, everybody's talking about do more with less. Well, do you need more people to do the work, or you just need to simplify what we're doing? I think Ray Burrell said, just challenge staff, like, why are you doing it this way? Is there a better way to do it? And so that's what we did with the unions, to say, let's get all of these processes that we have to follow that take a lot of time for someone else to do, so we don't have to hire more people in HR. We could hire more people in HR, but do you really need them, or do you need to change the process? So that's the way we looked at it, but generational gaps are going to be the issue for us in the future.
Anyone else?
Great, thanks.
Okay, I'm going to turn it over to Olga.
Thank you, Jamie. Good evening, everyone. My name is Olga Cordova, and I serve as your Human Resources Manager and BET Workstream Lead for HCM, Time Management, and alongside with Griselda Rodriguez, who is our Payroll Administrator, we co-lead improvement initiatives within the Payroll Department. I joined the company 15 years ago, and so I can personally attest to many of the improvements that we have made throughout the years. And one of the biggest improvements that we've made was when we embarked on the business transformation effort. That effort was a huge initiative that touched every single department in the company. And not only did it provide each business unit an ability to look at our existing processes and identify opportunities for improvement, but it also taught us that in order to be successful in this effort, we had to break down the silos across all the different departments and work together towards a common goal. So after 2 years of very hard work, some of us can attest to that in the room, we went live in 2020 with a new and improved SAP system. That system was better tailored to our needs. When we implemented this new system, the consultants actually got our input, and so we were able to design a system that worked much better for us. In human resources, this implementation allowed us to eliminate unnecessary steps within certain processes. For example, with the old SAP system, we had to follow a set of 47 pages of instructions just to hire one employee in the system. It was a very painful, tedious process, and if you missed one page, you had to start all over again. So when we implemented our new SAP, we went from 47 pages to 36 pages of instructions, and quite frankly, we can do that now with our eyes closed. We also were able to put in place different interfaces that communicate with our third-party vendors, as Jamie mentioned before, and that reduced the amount of manual intervention that we need to put into the system. We also created system-generated notifications when we hire, transfer, or terminate an employee in the system, and those notifications serve as triggers to different areas within the company to for them to complete specific tasks. For example, there's a department that needs to issue a badge, there's another department that needs to issue building access, or when we terminate an employee, we might need to terminate all the access. So before, we may have relied on email or a phone call. Now it's all automated through the system. We don't need to do anything at all. In addition, we introduced employee self-service, which is a tool that allows employees to access relevant information as it relates to their employment and their personal information. Employees can perform certain transactions on their own, such as updating their direct deposit information, accessing their pay statements, and using electronic timesheets to enter their time. And this obviously has helped us in reducing the administrative tasks that we have in the department, and is enabling us to spend more time on more strategic efforts. In addition, we implemented manager self-service. Manager self-service is currently available to managers to view their team information and approve time electronically. In human resources, we remain committed to continuous improvement and look for better, simpler, and more efficient ways to do things on a regular basis. So as we look into the future, we are aware that between the years 2027 and 2030, SAP support for our current version of SAP will cease. So we know that an upgrade to the existing system is in the horizon, and that might involve the introduction of some cloud solutions. And with that, we will see, and we hope to see, enhancements to our existing employee self-service and manager self-service to further give our employees access to more features that would allow them to control their own information. For example, allow them to maintain their taxes online, allow them to enroll in their benefits on their own, in automating our new hire onboarding process so that it's not so manual, but it just happens all through the cloud, and implementing an online performance management system. So I'll move on to the affirmative action plan and diversity training. So most of you, or if not all of you, have met Rita Kelly in the past. Rita is our Equal Opportunity Employment Officer, and we partnered with her to achieve the goals of the district in terms of affirmative action, attracting candidates that are diverse, as well as coordinating diversity training for new and existing employees. Rita is responsible for creating the affirmative action plan, which is communicated annually and is made available to the population at large by request. The affirmative action plan establishes goals for attracting diverse candidates, outlines efforts to build interest in technical and skill craft traits through programs such as the Learn and Earn program, the College Intern program, and partnerships with high schools in the Hartford area, and also identifies underutilized groups within the workforce based on labor market. In addition, Rita processes and investigates all internal complaints of discrimination that she receives through various channels, mainly through the whistleblower program. Each year, Rita provides the HR department with an affirmative action plan goal for new hires and promotions, And we work closely together to meet those goals where possible. And lastly, HR works with RITA to integrate diversity training into the new hire onboarding process, which is provided online via our learning portal, which is Percipio. So between 2021 and 2022, we've had a total of 56 retirements. And we expect that that trend will continue for a couple of years as we have a large population who are of employees who are of retirement age. And most of the time, when an employee leaves, whether it's through retirement or because they want to separate, we need to backfill those jobs. So we have been very busy in the recruitment area in HR. To give you an idea, in 2021, we filled a total of 46 jobs. We filled 81 jobs in 2022, and today we have processed a total of 32 job requisitions. Most of the jobs are filled, but they just keep coming in. The moment that we fill one, we have to fill another. So it's a revolving door right now. So to help us in our recruitment efforts, we rely on an applicant tracking system like Jamie mentioned. It's called Applicant Pro, and we introduced that system in 2008. Having been here before 2008, I can attest to this huge improvement because before Applicant Pro, we actually had a little window in the HR department, very much like a customer service window. We had a little bell right there, and people actually walked in and brought their unsolicited job applications, whether we had a job opening or not. And I can tell you, in a month, we probably received 200 applications. And it didn't stop there. We actually sent out a postcard to every single applicant that dropped off an application. And it would take us a couple of hours every week, maybe, to just send out those postcards to acknowledge to the applicant that we had received an application. So now that we have Applicant Pro, it has definitely simplified our process in that we have reduced the amount of paper that we handle. We have automated the entire job posting application and selection process, and have also gained some reporting capabilities, which are very helpful when we work with RITA to report on our affirmative action numbers. So along the process, we always work closely with the hiring managers on the selection of candidates and participate in all interviews and all the discussions that follow. Upon selecting the person for the job, the hiring manager is responsible for completing documentation that supports their selection. And HR completes an affirmative action report, which includes new hire justification, as well as affirmative action reports that we pull from Applicant Pro and that show the diversity of the candidate pool. So these reports ultimately, like I said, go to Rita. She reviews them, and then she provides her final approval. So once a candidate accepts a contingent offer of employment, we begin our onboarding process. Offers are contingent upon the candidate passing a pre-employment physical and drug and alcohol test, as well as a background check. And in some cases, based on the role, candidates may be also required to complete OSHA 10 training prior to their first day of employment. And once they've completed those pre-employment tasks, then we can bring the candidate as an actual employee, and we conduct in-person new hire orientation. And during that process, we review all the benefits offerings, we collect all the employment forms such as W-4s, I-9s, and conduct a review of all the MDC policies. Each new hire, I don't know. So each new hire receives a new hire binder, which contains helpful information such as a copy of the handbook and all the NDC policies. And if you want, you can take a look after the meeting. So as you can see, each recruitment takes a lot of time and effort and money. So we have to look at every one of our new hires and existing employees as an investment. And so we do that by ensuring that they stay current with any required training that they need to complete, not only for compliance, but training that would be beneficial for them in the job that they do. For example, there are some specific jobs within the operational jobs that must complete a health and safety compliance training on a regular basis. In 2018, the MDC introduced Percipio. Percipio is a learning platform that allows for the easy administration of tracking of each employee's training. NHR, mainly Felicia, works with Environment, Health and Safety Department to ensure that training is assigned to employees based on their specific job roles. Some of the training that we've conducted most recently includes the sexual harassment prevention training, which was completed by all employees in 2020 and 2021, and the whistleblower program in 2021 and 2022, with the vast majority of the workforce having completed the training. In addition, we're actively working to expand management and supervisory training to provide our supervisors and managers with the necessary tools for them to strengthen their leadership and be successful in their roles. So the MDC established a multicultural diversity committee in 2016 with a purpose to promote and foster an environment that is inclusive and embraces diversity in the workplace and within the communities that we serve. By celebrating our unique identity, sharing our cultural experiences, promoting effective communication, and exploring educational opportunities. And this year, I have the pleasure to serve as co-chair for the committee along with Rita Kelly. The committee is comprised of 14 members, with 11 members being actually brand-new members who joined this year. So throughout the years, the committee has hosted many multicultural events and has engaged with the communities we serve by volunteering time, collecting donations, and for those in need. We most recently hosted a celebration of Black history and culture, and we will be announcing upcoming events in the near future. So the success of this committee could not be possible without the constant support from Scott, our CEO, who believes that diversity and inclusion are essential components in forming a thriving and engaged workplace and helping our organization to create meaningful and lasting change. So that's all I have. Any questions, comments?
I just want to highlight something that Olga said. And these are just simple things, right? So just think about what Olga talked about. She mentioned quickly that we have, in some positions, pre-employment OSHA training or some training. So here's the process before. We hire somebody, they sit in the yard or they sit somewhere and get trained before they can go out in the field. Or they go out in the field before they're trained. Now, we say, because we have the right to, it's a right of us without changing the union contract, we have the right to change or require anything we want pre-employment, right? That person is not a union employee yet. So we have said, come to the MDC with your OSHA training. Percipio, anyone gets trained. Almost every company in the country is using online training. So it's going to take 3 weeks to onboard you, going through the process, sit down, get your OSHA certificate, and when you come, you're ready to work. That's just one simple thing. We used to have one person that here at the MDC that used to do all the training. There's a position that's required because the way we did it, we trained our own staff rather than using technology, right? The other thing is we talked about the training for our staff with Percipio. So we have one employee that would train our staff, would be scheduling, we're trying to bring people in from the field to get their training. It was a full-time job, just training our staff, making sure they're updated. And today, you have a rain day, a snow day. Our staff, in certain weather, it's not safe to work outside in the field digging a hole in the middle of the road. So on a rain day, instead of them sitting inside operations doing nothing, they're doing their training. So again, just becoming more efficient. Really simple, two simple issues that you wouldn't think of but are very, very important. Thank you, Olga.
Any other questions? Oh, hold on. You'll be next, Commissioner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I wasn't quite sure, as part of the hiring process, when you actually made the offer of employment. Is it made contingent upon passing the physical, the drug test, and the background check?
That's
And now
correct.
training?
That's correct. Not so much the training, but the offer is contingent upon successfully passing the pre-employment physical, the drug testing, and their background check. And for some jobs, the candidates must complete their OSHA 10 training before they can start employment with us.
And who pays for the background check, drug test, and
We do.
MDC does?
We do, yes.
And just the last question, I think, on what Scott said, when in fact we actually do employ someone, they have a working test period, correct?
That's correct. There's a probationary
During
period.
that working test period, they can be let go for no reason.
I would not say for no reason, but if they are not performing to the expectations of the job.
Well, I guess can they be let go for no reason during their working test period? Doesn't have to be
We don't.
performance-related.
No, it's generally performance-related. Jamie, like, I mean, yeah,
Not that it's a normal occurrence, but
no.
Speak a little into the mic, a little closer,
Okay.
okay, so we can, yeah. Thank you.
And this is one of the items that we changed with the unions, just an example, right? Each union had its own, some had 60 days, some had 30 days, some had 90 days.
120.
And so, as part of the union negotiations, to make it easier for HR, let's have one standard, right? That was just one simple example of simplifying the administrative components of HR.
And do we have anyone on staff that's collect certified, or do we go right to the state police in Middletown?
I'm sorry, I didn't
Do we
catch-
have anyone on staff who's collect certified for background checks?
certified.
We do. We have, our officers are, we have Sean Hurley, Sheriff Fabrizio, and then we've had our rangers also attend the collect training. We have 4 or 5, I believe.
Okay, so they conduct the criminal background checks?
No.
We actually have a third-party vendor that does all of our background checks.
Okay.
Thank you.
Commissioner Taylor?
Yes, I'm not looking to ambush anyone, but there's a 500-pound gorilla in the room that we're ignoring. And I guess the question is, how are we perceived? I mean, HR is the entry point for people in this community to the MDC. And more particularly, if you walked into this room when all the presentations were going on, someone who was fairly perceptive would probably say, this place looks like the 1950s. So my question for you basically is, who's in the pipeline? How do you get them in there? How do you make sure that basically not only are they appropriately trained, but they become part of the team and basically grow into a regular? I'm a firm believer that one, despite the hurdles that one must overcome, you become a regular. You have to become a regular. That's the only way you survive in an organization. But it's a twofold process. The organization must meet you. An environment should be a welcoming one, and it should be a collaborative one. I'm not quite sure that in many segments in our community that is the case. Now, once again, I'm not trying to ambush anyone. I'm just telling you what I think some of the perceptions are that we have to overcome.
Is there a question there
Yes.
for them?
Well, wait a minute, I don't have to ask a question. I'm getting to that, all right?
Okay, I just asked a question.
Well, you know, you never interrupted anyone else and asked them if they had a question or what it is. You know, why are you laying this on me? I'm just trying to get us to deal with the gorilla in the room, that's all. I'm not looking for an answer right now. But I think it's an issue that we've got to deal with. The best example that I can give you is a very good friend of mine owns Hartford Distributors. And it's probably one of the finest gentlemen that I know. Was a former commissioner here. And I'm sure some of you are aware of the fact that there was a shooting in their warehouse. Okay? And they did everything that they were supposed to do. But no one knew what was happening out there in the warehouse, okay? And I think we don't know what's happening every day out there on a day-to-day basis. And that's the question that I'm asking. You know, we've got all of this.
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Patel, let me finish, please. I mean, I don't interrupt people, so at least extend me that courtesy. So that all that I'm asking for people here to do is that I think that we have to take a careful look and make sure that even though we've got the charts and the graphs and everything else, that the reality is that we're really doing what we say we're doing up here. That's all I have to say about it. Thank you.
All right, now do we have Commissioner Patel, go ahead.
What my question is, we are listening to the presentation. If one has any specific detailed question, we can always have time later on ask and talk about it. So can we remain on a focus on listening to them, staff? They have done an excellent job in explaining everything. And thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Anything else?
Yes, I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to go back to Commissioner Taylor's non-question, however you'd like to state it. It was a position and a good supposition. So I want to go back to that only because I thought it was a great example. I had recently seen in the newspaper an article about organizations, companies, corporations that were chosen or nominated by their staff, their employees, as to a great place to work. And I was struck by it to the point that it was during, it happened to be published during probably the first 2 or 3 presentations that we've had. And those presentations, as I think I said, maybe each time, maybe not all of them, that I was extremely impressed with the level of motivation that the staff seemed to enjoy as employees of the district. And again, I was almost to the point of saying, asking the question, why hasn't the MDC been identified? Maybe it has been in the past, I don't know. But I wondered why it hadn't been identified. And again, their presentations tonight for the data IT area were great. I mean, they showed a certain camaraderie, a certain direction that people seem to enjoy taking. But your question, Commissioner Taylor, that can we know exactly what the boots on the ground are actually saying and discussing or arguing over in terms of the corporation? I don't know that Scott or anybody else could actually make that assertion that, yeah, I know what's happening, because it's a great question, because I don't think day to day you really ever absolutely know what's on people's mind. But one of the questions that I had that sort of relates to your question, Commissioner Taylor, was you had mentioned some statistics, and I'm not holding you to the numbers. I didn't write them down. But you had said there were X number of inquiries, even though a job may not have been identified as open. And out of those inquiries, what kind of batting average would you say your department enjoys in terms of, if you have 100 folks apply or inquire, and you have, let's say, just pick a number, 10 openings, but those 10 openings haven't been advertised, and yet there are applicants. And so as you go through that mixture, and you perhaps identify 5 of those, perhaps you can match up an applicant for a job. But the end of the question is, at the end of the day, how is the batting average of your engaged new staff? And I ask that only because the staff that we have been entertained by, I don't mean that negatively, but entertained by in giving these presentations, it's like we're doing pretty good overall. I mean, I don't think that any one of us around the table could actually say, oh, I don't know about that department, because the presentations have been excellent, just excellent. And again, I don't mean to step on your question, Commissioner Taylor, but I sort of saw it as a similar answer to get to with your supposition.
If I may, Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, go ahead.
Just to add to that, so Olga mentioned, and I mentioned it in my presentation, I think it's been mentioned numerous times, we are heavily unionized, right? So a lot of the positions, especially in the union, we have rules we have to follow. We have complied in passing colors with the CHRO Affirmative Action Plan with Rita Kelly's help for the last 10 years. But I think, Olga, you mentioned, or maybe Jamie, you did, we hired 49 people this year. And how many of them, it's in my monthly report, how many of them were promoted from internal promotions? That was in the 20s, right? I'll give you the numbers. So we hired 40-some odd, and we had 20-some odd promotions internally. One of the biggest things, important things that you need to consider for succession planning is you've got to hire qualified people to start with, right? Yeah. So if you don't hire qualified people, they can't get promoted up through the system because they can't move up through the system. The one thing that stagnated the MDC and the reasons why we had 700 employees is because we would hire someone, but that person didn't have the capabilities, the skill set to move up through the system. So that person stagnated in an entry-level position at the MDC. When I first got here, 2006, our entry-level job was, we called it pipe joiner, now it's UM1, multitasking UM1. We had pipe joiners 50 years old because they couldn't move up. So we didn't hire any new young people for succession planning. So in all of these departments, the people that we hire are, we always talk about, you're hiring your successor. You're looking for the next HR director. You're looking for the next director of engineering. And not everyone's going to be the director of engineering. Not everyone's going to be the director of HR. But you're looking for that capacity, the skill set of new people coming in that will move up through the system so that you can bring in new young people. And I think we've done a great job. I think HR's done a great job. Rita Kelly's done a great job. There's staff that I know that complains to commissioners. I know that, it's a fact. It happens. I meet with HR at least 3 days a week. You cannot run an organization like this without dealing with people issues, human resource issues. We don't have machines that get the work done, we have people that get the work done. So you have to understand what is going on, which I do and HR does. But there are going to be people that pick up the phone and call commissioners and complain. And that happens. And every complaint that goes to HR, not only does HR deal with this, and I had Rita Kelly give a presentation about 1.5 years ago on this very topic. But not only does HR deal with that complaint, if there's any discipline of any sort, Rita Kelly reviews every disciplinary action to make sure she's comfortable that it's consistent. Prior to 2015 and the HR director reporting to the CEO, every manager in the company did their own discipline. Can you imagine? Every manager. And so it wasn't centralized, that HR had to make sure that we had consistency amongst fairness, amongst discipline, amongst employees. It's very, very important. That's the only way you can do more with less, is to make sure that you understand what's happening in your employment.
Commissioner Tarscott.
Thank you. Firstly, I want to commend the folks at Human Resources, because you are doing a phenomenal job in terms of, all of the regulations and all of the things that you have to, follow through on to meet the law, to protect employees' rights, to balance the needs of the organization. So that's a very difficult job. And I think it becomes more difficult now, even when you try to do more with less. And as the CEO is saying, but that creates another issue. One is that it's not just about how great the job is done, but we are looking at a different perspective here, and that is the perspective of inclusivity and diversity. Women and people of color. And as we look at succession, training, that creates an issue unto itself, because on the one hand, it limits the ability to recruit people at a certain level into the organization, and it only leaves you really the capacity to hire people at the entry level, so that at some point you can get that succession planning, and people up into. So the question is, how do we do that? Because now we have to come up with new strategies that maybe we haven't been using before, and how do we target women and people of color to be able to come into those positions that we can identify, so that we can help those individuals grow within the organization. And I think that's what, the big picture here in terms of work, into the future profile of what the employee staffing is going to look like. If you look today at the demographic breakdown of the organization, I think you're going to see big disparities in terms of, where women are, where people of color are and where people of, of the general population that are not minorities or women are. And there's a, big, we see that in a lot of organizations. It's not just something that happens here, but, it's happening. So I think, it's incumbent upon us to look at new strategies, look at what works in other places in terms of how do people go about, hiring, seamless hiring and succession training, recruitment outside of our normal avenues of recruiting people, motivating young people who are going to college to look at jobs within the MDC, for instance, as really good careers. We have phenomenal people working here, and and we want more phenomenal people of a diverse background to work here also, because it's a great place to work. We have very talented people here. I think, we've all noticed that. I mean, you folks are tremendous. You do tremendous work, but we want to be able to expand that to the greater community so that, so we have even a more diverse and wonderful workforce that continues to serve the greater Hartford area, the towns and the other places that we provide our services to. And I think that's, that's the kind of issue that we need to be focusing on, is that now what do we do to get people in to do the kinds of things that we want to do? And perhaps, how do we make sure that that folks that may not feel culturally in tune with the rest of the organization, to make them feel part of that, part of the family, and what would make that difference? What would make people feel if that's the case? Maybe those complaints are perhaps unfounded because they perceive something which may not be there, but maybe some of us may not even be aware that we're doing, that is affecting other people. And that happens because there are cultural differences. Just like, the whole issue with sexual harassment. People were took things into, accepted things that, that we thought were okay. No, they're not, because females and some males, felt, no, that, those things are not acceptable. So I think that's, I kind of want to, provide a broader perspective on where I think we should be going in terms of continuing to do the good things, but now we need to do some other things differently. And perhaps at some point we could, figure out, or you can discuss, what kind of strategies you can come up with to make that happen.
Yes. Hold on. Commissioner Bush, did you have something? Okay. Commissioner, go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, one of the things to Commissioner Anderson here, one of the things I just wanted to speak about is DEI. I've been a new commissioner here. I've been listening and watching, and I think we're starting to scratch the surface, but just to piggyback on what my two prior colleagues said, is that the partnerships that you have in existence, the outside, I think they can help you with DEI, diversity, inclusion, and diversity in training. So I think if you contact them, the CHRO for the state of Connecticut, there's other people out there who can help out and make sure that the MDC is working towards that DEI. Because now, if you look at what's happening in the workforce, that is something that you heard, that's a buzzword that you hear all the time. And I really haven't heard it, but I'm hearing it in different kind of factions. So we're scratching the surface on it, but we should go maybe look at it through your partnerships and communications to see how we can compare ourselves to others who are out there who are making strides in DEI. Just want to kind of add that to the discussion.
And I just want to mention, and I think Jamie will touch upon more on that, but we do actively partner up with schools and universities and different associations in an effort to attract a more diverse candidate pool. While it's true that some of our jobs are very male-dominated, and so sometimes it's difficult, we do make every effort to make sure and challenge the hiring manager sometimes as to why a certain individual is not being selected, who might be diverse or might be a female versus a male. So those things do happen, and I think we have more to do, but we are going in the right direction.
I just
Yes,
have a-
Commissioner.
A quick comment. For many years, I sat on the University of Connecticut School of Engineering Advisory Board and attended, when I was a student there a million years ago, you're right, it was 90% white male. Today, it's a very diverse group of students from all over the world. And I think the opportunities they have, and I think you do bring in interns, and when I worked for DEEP, it was the same thing. We would go out there and meet, and we bring interns in. So these things exist out there today. It's just tools, and I think you are working with it. But the pool of talent is very different than it was years ago. That's all I have to say.
Any other,
Thank you, Mr.
Commissioner
Chairman.
Curry, go ahead.
At the state level, and I've been away for like 12 years, so I'm not sure if it's still that way, but every agency had a director of affirmative action. And when an employee had the need to file a complaint, that's where they would go. What is the setup here in MDC?
So, Nicole, jump in if you want, but if it's a...
Speak into the mic, please.
If it's a situation of discrimination, a concern for discrimination, then those complaints would typically go to Rita Kelly, who is our affirmative action officer. Other than that, they would come to HR.
So we have an affirmative action officer. And who does that affirmative action officer report to?
Directly to our chief executive officer.
So it's set up like the state where an employee files a complaint and an affirmative action officer encourages that employee to sue her boss. Do you not find that strange? Anyway.
Yeah. That was, well, if I'm, yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, it's so, the one thing that I think is important for affirmative action, Rita Kelly, is to not be an HR. It was an HR years ago. The recommendation was for it to report directly to the CEO for a lot of purposes. But I wish Rita was here because there's a lot of questions. I think talking about women and minorities and hires, I don't know if you have the statistics, but I think in the last number of hires in engineering, they've been either minority or women. So we've been doing a great job. I personally meet with CHRO on an annual basis with the team, and we've always strived to improve our participation on all levels. The one challenge that we have is that we have requirements. We have union requirements. We have, as Commissioner, we met with Joe Toner with the union and the old Hartford Jobs Funnel to try and find a way to recruit people from Hartford specifically with the skill sets through the programs at Hartford Job Funnel. And we have done that. We just hired an individual that went through the Hartford Jobs Funnel, so we're making progress. Just your help and discussions on what we have done. But I wish Rita was here. Rita has presented numerous times, but I would tell you that every complaint, whether it's discrimination or a whistleblower, that follows a process. As you know, PPI and the full board approved the whistleblower policy. We follow a process that the board set the policy for. Rita Kelly is that conduit. If Rita Kelly feels that this is not a discrimination issue and it's more of an HR-related complaint, it gets sent back to HR. But there's constant communication between Rita Kelly and HR to make sure that if there is discipline, if there is a legitimate whistleblower complaint, as you know in the whistleblower policy, if Rita thinks that there is a whistleblower issue, she goes to district counsel. If he affirms her concerns, then they bring it to the CEO. And we follow that process for every situation. Every complaint that is addressed to Rita, and there's a lot of them, she deals with that. And she will, although she can't talk about them openly, she makes sure that she's comfortable, that she can report to us and to CHRO that the issue's been resolved. But we are doing tremendous work in hiring. You may have, if you were here, you've seen a very diverse in directors and managers, directors, CAOs. We have a diverse workforce. We always can do better. What I say to CHRO every year is we always can do better. And we are desperately trying to do that.
Any other questions?
Thank you. I do just want to say we take in HR very seriously the responsibility that is imparted upon us to address issues that do come forward. So I know we've beat this to death probably, but I at least wanted to say we do take it very seriously. All of the points that were referenced from the recruitment standpoint and concerns about morale or anything like that are taken very seriously. So we just have a couple more slides. Some of these I can brush through in the considering your valuable time. Benefits is a big part of what HR does. So we've talked about some of what we've done, but obviously we work with PP&I and the district board to make sure our overall benefit package is competitive and flexible, and where possible, where we're anticipating trends so that we can make those changes. Generally not changes we can just make on the spot. Generally that involves negotiations, but again, we're very conscious of that as we are looking at our benefits package. Again, been very successful with the unions, again, which I think speaks to the relationships that we do have with the unions, where we have been able to make significant changes which align with some of those trends. The introduction of an HSA, changes to pension contribution structures, and then most recently, the implementation of a preventative care program. So again, I do think we have the support of the unions, but benefits are a very large piece of what HR does. One of the areas that we are continuing to evolve is that wellness area. Kadian is very busy in our office, making sure that we are trying to build a workforce that is engaged in their own health and wellness. So we do leverage some of our partnerships. We obviously have benefit consultants that we've had since 2013. We had locked in, and now as of 2021, we have USI. We work very closely with them and our insurance carriers to see what's the best deal, what can we get for you to help support our wellness initiatives. And we have, over the last several years, gotten funds that we can allocate specifically to wellness activities. This year, a lot of the wellness funds that we have are going to go paying those administrative fees specific to the preventative care program, but we still have funding available to do a lot of the nice things which build that camaraderie amongst employees, wellness activities. We do a step challenge, which is going to be launched again in May. Employees really like that. So that will be done. We do reimbursements for marathons and weekly fitness classes as well. So this is, again, just a summary of the preventative care program that we offer. I have shown this at the other meetings that we've had here at the district, so I won't spend a lot of time on it. But again, it very much is in line with the state, and it is focused on the employee and the enrolled spouse, making sure that they are adhering to their age and gender appropriate wellness exams. We talked about workers' comp trust. Again, this is one of those benefits where we do use workers' comp trust as our third-party administrator on the administration of our workers' comp benefits. Overall, our workers' comp benefits are performing very well, especially considering the physical nature of the work that our employees do. But we do have a lot of things in place, and things have grown over the years where we are in a good spot at this point from a workers' comp standpoint. Again, just because we have a third-party administrator doesn't mean HR isn't involved in this. We are very actively engaged in workers' comp injuries, doing everything we can to partner to make sure if they're preventable that we are addressing that so that they ideally don't happen again. We have a return to work program, and we also partner with EH&S to do investigations if necessary, if things need to happen. We also do have a managed care program, so we are trying to mitigate the cost associated with seeking care. Still quality care, but again, it helps to control the cost a little bit there. Milliman is the other third-party administrator that we utilize for our pension administration. This is the newest third party that we started utilizing in 2021, just on the administration. Again, does not mean HR is hands-off on this. We have very regular meetings with employees who are thinking about retiring. We talk to them about payouts, what that's going to look like. We talk to them about retiree medical and dental benefits and related costs, and also if they are going to be turning 65 or if they are already 65, talk to them about that transition onto Medicare, which can be a very big change once employees are used to an active plan. We also are directing them directly to that third-party administrator, Milliman. They have both a web portal, which is called the MARC website, where they can do their own estimates, get forms, and make sure that they're doing everything they need to do to get ready to retire. And if someone doesn't want to go on the website, they can also call a 1-800 number and be connected with Milliman to get that same information. So again, a lot of resources that we are communicating with employees so that they have the right resources to make educated decisions about a very important topic, their retirement. Okay. And we've talked a lot about succession planning. A lot of what we've been focusing, I won't focus a ton on this because I think we've covered most of this, but again, those two bottom charts show how much we are investing in the employees that we have. The vast majority of the recruitment activity in this last year, 2022, were promotions. We had roughly 80 recruitments, 53 of those were internal promotions. So I do think, people who are not happy at the district aren't going to stay to be promoted. So I do think the longevity that we do have with our employees shows that, we do have a committed staff. We have people who have been here for a really long time. So while, again, there's never going to be complete happiness, I do think, overall we have a happy workforce. I did want to focus on this because this is an exciting aspect of what the district does on the recruitment side. Again, trying to think outside the box, trying to do things differently from a recruitment standpoint to get the talent that we need for the future. We're not always looking at today and what we need today. It's what do we need in the future. And what we need is we need to think outside the box and enhance our talent pipeline. We need to attract individuals who are interested in working in the water and wastewater industries. Those are increasingly more complex to recruit for. Also, COVID has changed a lot of what I think the country is looking for in terms of jobs. So recruitment in general has been a big challenge. Some of the programs that the district does offer is we do have a Learn and Earn program, which is a high school intern program. We took a brief break during COVID, but we did institute that again last year, and it was a great program. I do have some collage photos over there. One is of the Learn and Earn program from 2022, and one is for the college intern program for 2022. But again, the Learn and Earn is for member towns, and it is for high school students who are interested in coming into the water and wastewater industries. It is a paid internship. We have the college intern, which is for college students at an accredited college or university. We also do have some entry-level positions, professional level trainees, where we can bring people in on the ground floor so they can really learn the district from the ground up. The vast majority of the PLTs that we had have already been promoted. They have not all been promoted because we have hired a couple recently. So. But it's a great sign that we've hired new ones because we promoted all the other ones. So again, a good sign for succession planning. And then also professional or plant operator in trainings, or POIT, we have on the water and the wastewater side. So I do want to talk about.
Mr. Chairman, may I go back?
Yeah.
Go ahead, I'm sorry. Yep.
Was the Learn to Earn, that's the high school program, is that also paid? Did I hear that?
That is paid as well, yeah.
That is paid,
Yep.
okay.
So the Learn and Earn program is for high school students. It is a 4-week program. The first 2 weeks are directed learning. So we have some instructors who are kind of fixtures in the water and wastewater industries who come in and help provide the instruction. They do activities with the students. We also rely a lot on our employees. Some of the employees in this room have probably been involved, but we do a lot of facility tours those first 2 weeks, hands-on activities. So they really are seeing every aspect of how the district operates. The next 2 weeks round out the program where we actually put placements, put these students in different departments at the district, and they get to work alongside industry professionals and see the work that they've been learning about for the last 2 weeks in action. It's been a very positive program, and I actually want to show you a 2-minute video on the next slide. Yep. Oh.
My name is Amir.
While they're getting that started, one of the challenges we have in the industry, I think, Commissioner, you asked the question, what's the challenge? COVID changed a lot for a lot of companies. And one thing that we have seen is young people wanting to go into the trades, right? We have an individual right now, in a success story for the POIT program, for the Learn to Earn program, minority. He was awesome last year. We're ready to hire this kid right out of high school, and he decided to go to college. So, and I was told by Joe Trainer, you and I were in the same room, Joe Trainer said, this is a union representative for City of Hartford. Not the City of Hartford, but for the union reps. He said to us, the challenge that kids have is the schools, not Hartford schools, but all schools. He said, if you are older than 40 as a guidance counselor, you're telling your kids to go to college. Everybody's got to go to college. And if you're under 40, that person is saying, no, you can become a plumber, you can become an electrician, but the schools are part of the problem, right? So we've got to your point, we got to find a way to reach out to those kids. But we thought we had a success story this year in our Learn to Earn program, and the kid likes water and wastewater so much, he's going to go to college. Sorry, go ahead.
You get him at the high school, you get him at the college internship level.
Get him at the junior high level.
Yeah, also the college internship when he come home looking for a summer job.
Yes, and we have had a lot of college kids come in and take not entry level, but more labor jobs because we pay so well, so, yeah.
Hold on.
So this video is last year's program.
Before you hit the video, Commissioner Bush, I think you had something to say.
I wanted to follow up quickly. Something I kind of heard that if you don't hire people who have enough experience or enough education, that they kind of get bogged down in the lower level jobs. But does the MDC have a program where people who you take directly out of high school then can become educated? Maybe the MDC pays for education, that they can advance through the different levels and ranks?
Yeah, so we do have a tuition reimbursement program. So any of our employees can decide to go to undergrad or graduate school and get reimbursed for the courses. They do obviously have to pass the courses, but we do have that program. We also, in some of our trade-oriented positions, instead of using some of the older systems that we had under the union contracts, we have kind of I'm going to call it a cross-training program, for lack of a better word. It's really training programs to acclimate or provide opportunities for staff to experience another job. So we have done some of those in operations. We've done some in, I think, the command center. So that if, again, people want to branch out and learn a little bit more or do something else and they just don't have the experience to be able to qualify for one of those jobs, we are then providing that on-the-job training for them.
And if you were at the water treatment presentation, we have a success story of that very issue, which is Nicole, right?
Yep.
And Nicole.
Or Michelle.
Michelle, sorry, Michelle. We have three Nicoles and one Michelle. Michelle, as she was here at the presentation, she started out as a water treatment operator in wastewater, went to water, went to school at night, MDC paid, got her engineering degree. Did she get her PE? I'm not sure if she got her
I'm
PE.
thinking of the wrong person.
Yeah.
Megan, I think, right? Allison?
Yes,
Yeah,
Allison. I was
Allison.
right the first time.
Yeah.
But, so that's a success story, and there's a lot of those. And we even talked about the fact that the MDC used to require that in order you be a manager in operations, that you had to be an engineer. What's that got, so we don't require those kinds of things anymore, because the best person that could be a manager is the person that, Kim Haynes from customer service. You saw Kim Haynes. She's a black woman, right? She started out as a clerk at the MDC, and she's the manager of customer service. So there are success stories, and we are doing everything we can do, you know, to be inclusive, right? To make sure that we're doing everything we can do. A lot of success stories, and a lot of people were here presenting with that success. Sorry.
My name is Amir Cousin. I'm 16 years old and I go to Hartford Public High School.
I'm Alicia Zahn, junior at Conard High School in West Hartford.
Jonathan Santiago, I'm 16 years old and I go to Hartford Public High School.
Jack Samaretti, senior at Wethersfield High School.
Caden Rubior, I'm in 12th grade. I go to Hall High School.
Learn and Earn is a 4-week program. It's a paid internship for high school students. This program was created to tap into the high school students within our member towns and actually introduce them to the careers of a water and wastewater utility, specifically the careers at the Metropolitan District.
I'm learning all kinds of things I never even knew were out there about the water industry and where the water that we drink comes from.
The first 2 weeks are training. They get exposed to almost every single department within the MDC.
We're going around facilities, going around reservoirs, we're looking at how they treat water, what they do with wastewater, how sewage works.
Lab stuff here is really cool. I'm semi-familiar with a lot of this stuff, but seeing it actually being used and explained in depth is really interesting.
There's just a wide variety of different people doing different tasks to help this move along.
The last 2 weeks, they're actually placed in a department that they're interested in working in.
Everyone's here is like really excited about it, excited to work here.
They're very passionate about their work and their environment, and I like to see that because they care about our community.
Our hope is that we actually create a pipeline of interested students for individuals to come work at the MDC.
I could definitely see myself working for the MDC.
That is important work. You get to help the community.
I could easily see myself working here in this lab.
I also like labor as well, so you know, I could do some like piping, some plumbing, all that stuff.
It just seems like there's a place for everyone, and some of the jobs are just beyond interesting to me.
If you're interested in the program, reach out to your teachers, reach out to your principals. These are great career opportunities. We like to embrace as many students as we can because we know that they'll fall in love with what we do as well.
Okay, so that was again the Learn and Earn program from last year. Great group of students. Again, to Scott's point, we were hoping to hire one of them, but I haven't given up yet. I think, you know, he might try college and we still might get him. So maybe he'll come back as an intern, which is great. You know, get people to come in the different programs we have. All that does is really expose them to more of the MDC.
Commissioner Bush.
Just a quick yes or no. I don't need to get into a long explanation, but do we offer college credit for internships here for college students?
We don't provide the credit. That would be on the college side. So if they have to do an internship and they need us to complete paperwork, we can absolutely do that.
There is a way to do it, that you could communicate directly with the colleges and offer the internships for credit. So
I as Commissioner, was on the advisory board. I am on the advisory board for the University of Hartford, so I went to the University of Hartford, and we have been talking with them about an intern program. We're also talking with Capital Community College about an internship program with their construction management program. So that is, we're actively working on those scenarios. There's been a huge drop in the engineering participation. The prior group, IT, almost everybody wants to be in IT because it pays more. The highest paid four-year degree is some IT positions. They pay more than the engineers. So you're seeing a lot of migration from engineers to the IT world. And so that's a challenge in the industry for succession planning. But it's something we're focused on.
I mean, there are programs that I mean, a company that I was involved with in the past was able to reach out to different colleges and universities and say, hey, we're offering this, and we'll, so, okay, good.
Some of the old-fashioned, like Northeastern in Boston was famous for their internship programs, and you couldn't get paid and if you weren't paid, then you could get credit, and it's all really up to the school now, whether or not they give credit for the work.
One other, just a quick option, I don't know if they're still doing it, because I was back pre-COVID when I was on the advisory board, was they would sponsor a senior design team, whereas the MDC could sponsor the team, come up with an engineering problem, the team would work on it, and that would be part of their senior credit. So that may still exist, I don't know.
Thank you, Commissioner. You all set? Anybody else? Okay, sorry.
We are starting to explore different partnerships that we can have to really, again, focus on the water and wastewater side, attract people who have that interest in coming to the MDC. So again, I appreciate all the feedback because we are trying as hard as we can to think outside the box and navigate different ways to do things, because we know the way we're doing them now, it works, but we can always do things better. So I do appreciate the feedback. The college intern program, again, is for college-age students in accredited programs at a college or university. That is a 9-week program. Generally, that one runs from the first week of June to the first week of August. During that time, they are paid. So again, that is a paid internship. And they also are working directly in a department. So we have departments who say, yes, I want an intern, or I want a couple interns. We recruit just like we recruit for any other position. They apply, they interview. So they're going through that whole process, which is, again, a good opportunity to expose them to the work environment. So they are doing that, and we actually are concluding that process now. Several of our departments have already identified and offered positions to interns. So we are working through that and are preparing for the start of June for that. What we also do with both the Learn and Earn program and the intern program is we do facility tours. So again, regularly getting them out so they can really see what the MDC does, so they're not locked in an office or one area and only seeing a small portion of what the MDC does. We also are helping to prepare them for the workforce on this intern program. We actually utilize our employee assistance provider and have them come in and do a series of 5 trainings, which is, again, kind of teaching them workplace etiquette and things like that to help prepare them as well. And we also have them participate in a volunteer opportunity while they're here as well. So great programs, students, many of which continue to come back. So great programs. We've gotten great feedback on them. And we really appreciate all of the work that this is on the staff to take these students and really impart their knowledge on them, because we could not have successful programs without our staff. So they've done a great job welcoming these students and really making it the best it can be. So I think that pretty much wraps up our presentation. I can't advance anymore, so the only page I had was kind of a conclusion wrap-up, so I don't know if there's any other questions.
No? I guess, oh.
I would just like to say that I think you and the whole staff here is doing a great job. On the other hand, Scott sometimes is very trying. So just make sure we get it to the right person.
They do a great job.
Yes.
They're doing an excellent job.
Okay.
Well, thank you all for your time. Sorry we went over. So.
Thank you very much. All right, guys, we're not over yet.
Oh, that's right.
Opportunity for general public comment. All right, that's it, all right. And if we have the appropriate motion,